Franklin County Board of County Commissioners now in session for this regular meeting Tuesday, January 21st, 2025. Good to see you all this morning. We have a pretty lengthy agenda, so we're going to get started. Commissioner Ward, can you lead us in prayer and pledge, please?
Yes. Lord, we come to you today on this cold, chilly day to conduct county business. We pray for all of our residents visiting and here to live during safety during this time. Be safe on the roads. Let our first responders be safe, and we pray that we have no damage and nothing happens to anyone. Everyone's safe, and we pray for your continued touch on people in the community that need it, Lord. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Mr. Morone, is there anything we need to amend on the agenda before we approve it?
No, sir. If you look at the agenda, it shows where Aaron's in my report where it was updated, but that was done long before this morning. So as far as I know, there's nothing to add, sir.
Okay.
Changes.
All right. So with that, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Croom with a second from Commissioner Amison. Any discussion, Commissioners? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous. All right, up next we're paying the county bills and approval of minutes from January 7th, November 19th of 2024, December 17th of 2024, December 3rd of 2024, and revised from November 5th of 2024.
That makes sense, Chairman.
All right, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Sanders,
Second.
second from Commissioner Amison and Commissioner Ward. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous. All right, next we're going to go to public comments. I'm just taking them in the order I have them here. Mr. Wayne Williams, you're up first, sir. Please state your name for the record. You have 5 minutes.
Good morning, Wayne Williams, Seafood Working Watermen's Association President. I appreciate y'all letting me talk this morning. I'd just like to start with just making aware our management plan right now should be our #1 concern. I mean, if they open the bay and we don't got a good management plan, it's not going to do us a whole lot of good. So we really need to focus on that management plan right now. And I'm asking Franklin County Commission Board to please get very involved with this and help us make sure we get a good management plan, because that is our future. That's and it's coming to a head here pretty soon. Apalachicola Bay Wild Caught Oysters is very capable of creating a huge network of jobs and economic output, and it's even much bigger than what a lot of people realize. And the decline of the oysters from the bay, it wasn't due to overharvest. I mean, we harvested during that decline, but yeah, I promise you, it wasn't due to overharvest. We can't make permanent changes on temporary problems. So that's going to limit our abilities in the future. So we got to be very, very careful about this management plan that we've got about to be implemented here pretty soon. And I've yet to hear anybody define limited license or limited entry and a lot of other things that I've seen that's been talked about in this management plan that could be very easily misunderstood by a lot of different people. And that just a few topics I got here that I jotted down, and I know I ain't got much time, but and I'm very much against a limited license. I don't want us to wound up with a license that can be bought or sold and cause that kind of problem. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to limit the amount of oysters comes out of that bay rather than limiting license and limiting people's freedom. So, I mean, how can we say you can do it and you can't, you know? So, getting to the rocks, I've never agreed on the size of the rocks that they are using. Now, it all come to a head where it got so close to the pilot study that we didn't have no choice. It was either take what they got or get nothing or try to stop it and not have any material out there come January 26th. So that was the situation we were in. And no, I do not recommend the size rocks they're using on the large scale restoration. So that was the pilot study. So I need to get out there and be able to tong that stuff and check it out, because we haven't been able to even get out there and check it. So we need to be able to get out there and check that stuff and see how hard it's going to be to tong. Smaller rocks, I've recommended around 3-inch rock. We've got the FDP Restore projects. They were loaded with oysters. They got harvested, went through several storms. They held up good. It was smaller rocks. I don't see no reason why we can't use the same material. It worked really well. Best of my knowledge, there's still oysters out there growing on them good right now. Just to get off on the oyster farms. So, I mean, there's a lot of situation right now between the oyster farms and wild caught. A lot of people don't know any difference. There is a huge difference between aquaculture farming and wild caught harvesting, and I need to like everybody to be aware of that. And that's something that needs to be, you know, brought out, because there's a big confusion there. So I'd like for y'all to just please get involved with the management plan, and let's see to it we get a good management plan that's not going to limit our abilities in the future. We need something that remains flexible as the resources fluctuate, where we can adjust as we need. And that's about all I got right now. If y'all got any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Appreciate it. Sorry, I was writing down notes from stuff you were saying. Michael Richter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity. I have a handout I'd like to give to everybody. Can I give that to you, Mr. Merle? Okay. All right. This is, just give me one handout card. For the record, my name is Michael Richter. I'm the Vice President of Boyd Insurance, North Florida Division. I live in Liberty County and have an office there. And the purpose of me visiting with you this morning is to invite you to an event that we're hosting in February 25th. He's going to hand out a flyer here with some more specifics on it for you. This is something as part of a seminar series that our partner for insurance for municipalities puts on across the state. It's a seminar series, but I am working to bring services closer to home here in the Panhandle, make it a little easier for us in our rural counties to have our administrative staff and department heads and others have access to this information. And I just think this is a great opportunity for Franklin County to evaluate that. Have some of your, your team, your staff, Mr. Marone, I would love to have him attend, and any of you board members that would like to spend a day with us and be able to interact with some of the membership. This event will have members and non-members present in our area, and so you would be able to interact with them, get more information, talk with them about what they're doing. We find that that's a valuable time spent together in some of these events we do across the state. The day will start off about 9 o'clock. We'll do a continental breakfast and a little coffee to get everybody kicked off. Hopefully it won't be snowing on that day. And we'll do a few sessions. These sessions are led generally by attorney panels from different firms. And they'll have a question and answer period. Usually they give good examples, and these are things that have been member requested, so they're usually pretty pertinent information for counties and cities in our area. 12:30 or so, we're going to do a nice catered lunch for everyone. We're going to give everybody time to interact. We're going to have a panel discussion as well for open it up for everyone to close it out. Probably done by 2:30. We're about an hour up the road there, and we would love to see you there. And I just wanted to come personally invite you and see if you had any questions about it, or if I could, answer anything for you, I will. And I do need everybody to RSVP so we have a count. We can get our seating lined up for you, but would love to have you there. I think it would be a great opportunity for the county.
Just one question,
Yes, sir.
Michael. So it's from 9 to about 2:30?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That was the only thing that wasn't printed here, so I'm
Yes,
glad you
sir.
answered that.
It was a little open-ended, so I didn't want to put it in writing because I knew it
Yes.
might change, and I will get final information out before we get there. But we believe it'll be 9 o'clock to 2:30, give everybody time to travel there and travel back in the workday. So that's our intent.
And Mr. Chairman, that's Central Time, right?
No, ma'am, it's all
Eastern.
Eastern,
Okay,
yes,
all
all Eastern time.
Yeah, that's a
Yes.
good question.
It is a good question, and
Making sure.
I do clarify that.
way.
So
Yeah.
once as I'm visiting, this won't be the last time you hear from me, but I will clarify those arrangements to make sure everybody's clear. But yes, that's a great point. It is Eastern time.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yes, sir.
Where's your closest governmental entity that you service to us?
Well, we've got Liberty County. You've got Wakulla. You've got Port St. Joe, Mexico Beach, Panama City. I can go on. I can get you a list of those too. But you'll have those neighbors we expect them to be in attendance as well.
Okay.
Jefferson, some more that way. So, all right. Thank you very much. I'll have a good night.
Thank you. Mr. Leary, you want to speak now, or you want to wait till FWC is speaking?
Well, I can speak now.
Okay, come on forward, please. You have 5 minutes, sir. Please state your name for the record.
Larry Hale. I just wanted to see if, working with y'all and maybe FWC, if we couldn't limit duck hunting behind the residential area of St. George Island. It's gotten to be quite a problem, especially since this Ducks Unlimited is so popular on TV. You have people right now, even a guy coming from Wakulla County with a commercial interest, bringing guys and setting up blinds all behind my house and a number of other people's houses. It goes on from the St. George Island Bridge all the way to Bob Sykes Cut. And I mean, they don't even keep the ducks they shoot. Some of them, it's just a waste. We had 26 white pelicans behind the house for a while, and of course they've left now. But it's become quite an irritant to the people that live along the bayside. And we have a lot more people living on the bay now than used to be. Second issue is a fibropapillomatosis virus. I've had 2 sea turtles wash up behind my house covered in these tumors. And I've talked to a geneticist and a biologist, and they tell me this is coming from a mutated virus that comes from human sewage outfall, akin to the herpes virus. So I don't know if the FWC is concerned about this, but I certainly am, and I think there's other people here that know that they've caught fish in our bay that seem to have sores on them, and I'm concerned about it. And I don't know what they're doing about to try to mitigate this virus that is coming down the river. And it's coming from some of the cities upstream, I'm sure. But thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Leary. All right. So, unless I'm misunderstanding, Ms. Fisher, Mr. Pearsall, Ms. Bousseau, Ms. Waggers, and Mr. Paul and Ms. Diane Brewer all are wanting to speak when we're talking on the attorney's item about the PUD, correct? Okay, well, we refer to them. We are done with public comments. Mr. Morone, up next is Jennifer Daniels, Emergency Management Director.
And she's appearing on Zoom, sir.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Jenny.
Good morning, Commissioners. Is everyone cold enough?
Not yet, but it's coming.
Exactly. I have one thing on an action item on our board report for this morning. I'd like to request the board to retroactive approve the signing of the LSC effective as of yesterday at 8 a.m. And it's for the strong Arctic cold front that's coming in.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Ward,
Second.
second by Commissioner Sanders and Commissioner Croom. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That is a 5-0 vote. Anything else, Ms. Jennifer?
Thank you, Commissioners. I'll just give you a quick update. We are fixing to get on the 9:30 call with the National Weather Service in Tallahassee. We should have the latest updates after that. Right now, our timing looks to be later this afternoon is our earliest onset of the cold, and even some of the precipitation and possible snow and or sleet or wintry mix should start earliest between 1 and 3 p.m. Hopefully ending by about 6 a.m. in the morning, but tonight is going to be our coldest night.
All right. And thank you for keeping us updated. And Ms. Jennifer, thank you for continuing to update the public on the website and through stuff like Facebook. So anybody that wants to know or keep up with it, she is putting out regular updates about anything that might be transpiring or going on. Just want to make sure the public's aware.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Ms. Jenny. Anyone have anything else for Ms. Daniels?
Mr. Chairman, based on her reports, based on the clerk's conference call yesterday with the court system, once they decided to close at 12 noon today and be closed all day tomorrow, that's when I contacted each commissioner yesterday, and you all agreed that that we should follow suit as the court was closing. So just kind of want to put that on the record too, sir.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Jennifer.
Thank you.
All right, is Ms. Courtney appearing by Zoom as well?
Yes, she is.
All right, Ms. Courtney?
Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
So the first thing on my agenda is with SHIP in our LHAP, we do have what they call a homebuyers class, and we're supposed to have a teacher teach our homebuyers class. The previous one that we had passed away, and so they're asking us to find a replacement. I did find a replacement with Linda Stratton. She has great references. She has previous experience in teaching the homebuyers class, so it's up to you, county commissioners, to approve the appointment of Linda Stratton as our homebuyers teacher for SHIP.
Okay.
Commissioners, I would add one thing to that. Courtney, tell me from I believe it's something we have to have up in Tallahassee before we can advertise, before we can start accepting SHIP applications. They want a home buyers a teacher on record as part of LHAP, I believe.
And Mr. Chairman, just so the public's aware, this is something we do not have to go out for bids for or request for qualifications, because this is specific, job specific. So with that, I'll make a motion to approve Miss Linda Stratton.
Okay. We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Ward, second from Commissioner Sanders. Any discussion, Commissioners? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That is a 5-0 vote. Go ahead, Ms. Courtney.
Thank you. The second thing is just a informational item. So, I've been working on the demolition reconstruction strategy for the new LHAP, and Florida Housing finally came back with a review of what I sent them, and there's about 5 to 6 items that I have to update before we can get it approved. Okay. It goes between new rules or new language that has to be put in there that Florida has changed, that the state has changed. So it's like update the verbiage. And then once I have that, you guys will have to approve it, and then Florida Housing will actually approve the LHAP.
Okay.
So I just wanted to give you an update on that.
Ms. Courtney, after they approve it, do we still have to go through a process of approving it in a meeting? How does that work?
So there should be a resolution.
Okay,
It's what Rob Bidoff told me. There should be a resolution that you guys will approve. And then a copy of that resolution gets sent to them, and then they approve everything after basically the county has said, this is what we want, and this is what we approve.
okay.
So just let you know, it's been taking a while, but it's because they are very strict on what verbiage you put in there.
Okay.
So they're just making sure that it's all correct.
Do you think we'll have this ready for consideration in February?
I think so.
Okay,
If they're not, I mean, he sent a conditional approval, and he sent some changes that we have to approve, and then once I'll have a resolution to you by the first meeting in February.
okay.
So then once we get that back to him, I say by the second meeting in February, we'll be able to move forward and advertise.
Okay. All right. Commissioners, do y'all have any questions for Ms. Courtney about this update? Thank you, Ms. Courtney. We appreciate it.
No problem.
Ms. Erin Griffith, you're up next.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Okay, let's see, this is a consent agenda, so I will just open the floor if you all have any questions or would like to pull any of the items, or do we need to go down one by one, whichever way you all would prefer.
Okay. Commissioners, are there any items, is it 1 through 8, they're all action items, Erin?
That is correct.
Okay. Commissioners, are there any items 1 through 8 that you would like to pull to discuss separately?
Can we comment on
You can if you want to pull them. Tell me which ones you want to pull.
them? Okay. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, you can, but I mean, which ones do you want to pull?
Number one.
Number one? Okay. So let's do number 1 separately. Any other ones, Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, number 2,
Okay.
and that's it for me.
Anything else? All right, so Ms. Erin, let's do, go ahead and take care of the consent from 3 through 8, and then we'll come back to number 1 and number 2 and discuss those separately.
Okay.
Pleasure of the board.
So move.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve items 3 through 8 on Ms. Griffith's report by Commissioner Sanders, second from Commissioner Croom. Any discussion on these items before we vote? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous. All right, let's go back to number 1, Ms. Erin.
Let her go ahead, and I want her to read.
Right, do you all want me to actually,
Commissioner Sanders asked you to
Okay.
read number 1, yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay. At the last meeting, the board opened construction bids for the Lanark EMS station. 3 bids were received and released to Dewberry Engineers for their review and recommendation. Dewberry has reviewed and recommended award to the low bidder, Oliver Sperry Renovation and Construction Incorporated, in the amount of $1,078,444. Funding for this EMS upgrade will be provided by a $600,000 grant in the county's healthcare trust fund. Board action to issue a notice of intent to award to Oliver Sperry Renovation and Construction Incorporated in the amount of $1,078,444 for the Lanark EMS station, and to authorize the chairman to sign the construction contract documents once available.
Okay. We're gonna, Erin, we're gonna, on this contract, we're gonna give them 180 days to complete it?
That's correct.
That's right. Okay, now I want a groundbreaking when this happens.
Okay.
Okay, I told you I
We
want a
will get one
groundbreaking, and then
scheduled.
when it gets finished, I want a grand opening. Because this is the first of this in the county, and it was a $600,000 grant from the state that we were able to do this. And this is important for the people to realize that we are working for them and we're trying to meet their needs. And that's all. So I'll make a motion that if there's no more discussion on it, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve this.
Okay, we have a motion to approve
Second.
by Commissioner Sanders, second by Commissioner Ward. Any other discussion before we vote? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous. All right, on item number 2, Commissioner Ward, do you have a specific question, or you wanted to read the caption? What are we doing?
She don't have to read it, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman. I just want to make a note. It says here, obviously, Aaron, with the new location, we don't have to put it on pilings like we were supposed to, and if it were going to be at the airport, so that's going to save money. I see that we have an additional 1,050 square feet for bunk area. Does this outlay, and I don't know if I maybe asked this before, because I know we had discussed maybe moving some of the constitutional officers over there that want to move, not the courthouse, not the clerk, but like the property appraiser, tax collector. Is this gonna be able to accommodate that if needed?
It is not. Actually, it's federal funds that we're using to actually construct the new EOC. So really, we're going to have to finish absolutely everything with that site. Civil site design, the parking, basically everything associated with that building we'll have to finish before we actually go back and add anything else to the 2-acre parcel.
Okay.
Now this 1,050 square foot bunk area, that's going to be part of the EOC. And the EOC is also going to require a level of construction that is extremely expensive. So you don't necessarily want to attach anything else that doesn't have to be included in that.
Okay.
But yeah, we are moving forward at this point in time. Now, one thing with that being said, as far as not having to elevate it, the state of Florida has confirmed that FEMA will not actually release there until they receive the fully stamped engineered plans and everything. So at some point in the future, we do run the risk of FEMA coming back and telling us, it needs to be 4 feet off the ground or something along those lines. We would not expect for it to be anything like it was at the airport site, where it had to be actually elevated on pilings.
Okay, and one more question. I don't know, and if you may not be able to answer this, if not, that's okay. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know I mentioned a helicopter pad. Does this include the helicopter pad as well?
This will not include the helicopter pad. We will have one there, though.
Okay, all right.
If I may, Aaron, Commissioner, so the reason I think with the constitutionals won't fit, because Jennifer actually wants 2 additional storage buildings outside of what you read here on Aaron's report, and a helipad. So with all that there and the amount of restricted amount of uplands that we have there, I don't think we could fit another building there, because Jen needs a lot of storage space. She really does.
Okay, but there is a potential, if they wanted to, that we could accommodate that, right? For the ones that want to move over there, the Constitution officers.
We'd have to look at the layout.
Yeah, I'll double check the property. I think there's so much wetlands in that area. I don't know. I cannot answer that question until we have Jennifer, both her helipad and the 2 storage buildings kind of mapped out after this project is finished. I really can't answer that question right now.
I'm just trying to think proactively, not reactively.
I got you.
That's I don't want to get a layout of something and then us have to go back and reinvent the wheel and go back to the federal government, which is taking forever and a day. I just want to lay everything out on the line and have it all, right here, right now, so we can all look at it. And anyway, that's all I needed.
Kind of like what we're doing with the gun range.
Yes, I don't want to be having to go back and like I said, reinvent the wheel. So anyway, thanks, Aaron.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the attached task order.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the task order by Commissioner Ward. It has been seconded by Commissioner Sanders. Commissioners, is there any more discussion before we vote? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That is a 5-0 vote. All right. Anything else from Ms. Aaron before we move on? Ms. Aaron, did you have any updates or anything you need to inform the board of?
Commissioner, just that we have the public hearing scheduled for the capital improvement plan update, which will be at the February 18th meeting at 10 a.m. The CR 67 phase 4 permit is still pending. We have not had that permit issued to us yet. We also have a mandatory pre-bid meeting held at the East Point Annex this Friday for the 6th Street Dune Walkover. The countywide dune restoration project will be opening bids for that at your next meeting, your first meeting in February. And also the airport hangar roof and generator projects. Addendums were issued and we were supposed to be opening bids for that today. But we will be opening those bids on at your next meeting, the first meeting in February.
All right, thank you, Ms.
And that's it.
Mr. Chairman, I got a real quick question.
Go ahead.
Aaron, the conference call, and if you, again, I don't want to put you on the spot, February 15th that you had for the Transportation Alternative Grant conference call, how did that go?
Can
you hear me?
Sorry,
I think she's trying to figure out which meeting you're talking.
You probably have. I think it was the 15th, and then we can get after the meeting. You can think about, because it was the
the public meeting.
Yes.
The public meeting that we held for input on River Road.
Yes.
Yes, it went well. We did have one person show up in here at the office, and then we also had another participate by Zoom, and both were very much in support of the River Road Multi-Use Path project.
Okay.
And they had also participated back in 2021 when the other meeting was held. So we did get both of those grant applications in for River Road and North Bay Shore Extension, and hopefully we'll be successful this time with River Road.
Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate the update. Thanks, Chairman.
No problem. Anyone else have anything for Ms. Griffith? Ms. Aaron, I have a question or two. When are we, do we have a timeline of when we actually might be able to start commencement of the stormwater project on St. George Island?
Actually, from what I understand, they have reviewed the project submittals. Also included in this report is the CEI contract with Southeastern Consulting Engineers. So with that being said, I know they reviewed submittals. Actually, some of the materials, it was actually going to take, I guess, about a 2-month lead time for some of the drainage boxes. And the contractor didn't really want to have a firm start date until he had concrete delivery dates, just because we didn't want to get into something whereas, the roads and ditches started to be torn up and then they weren't able to actually put them back in time. So we do have in the next few weeks, we'll have a pre-construction meeting. And then at that point in time, we'll have a firm start date.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Aaron. And is there, are they close to completion on the old ferry dock boat ramp?
They are getting close.
Okay. All right, because I know they had said sometime in January, and they still got a couple of days, but I just wanted to ask you this morning for the benefit of the public.
Can I mention something about that?
Sure can.
That boat ramp, you got the best boat ramp you could ever have. And
That's what we tried to do.
That's Tedder Boat Ramp. Mr. Randy Tedder died a couple of years ago, but he is the patent on that boat ramp, and that's at Abercrombie, O'Cloutney. They are just perfect to use because they're preformed. All you got to do is just sit them down and then walk around it. And I'm telling you, if we ever get another boat ramp, and he's a sole source because he's the only one that does that, we need to make sure we use that company because they are excellent at putting them in. I rode over and looked at it. It looks good.
It does.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
So it looks real good. And I'm proud of it. And I'm proud for you because that's a good thing.
It's good for the people of Franklin County. Thank you, Ms. Aaron.
Thank you, Commissioners. Everybody stay warm.
We'll try. Mr. Morone, we're up to you.
Commissioner, and I should have said this morning when we were talking about the agenda. So we do have a time certain item, FWC at 10 a.m. So wherever we are in the agenda, we need to pause and go to FWC because I believe they also have another meeting they need to get to in Tallahassee and then get out of this weather. So I kind of wanted to bring that to your attention, sir. Okay, Commissioner, so you have my report in front of you, items 1, 2, 3, and I believe 4. Our action items, I do need to discuss 5, 6, and 7 with you, and 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, of course, are just informational items, Commissioner.
Is there anything, Commissioners, that you would like to pull from items 1, 2, 3, and 4 to discuss separately before we consider them on consent?
I want to pull 3.
All right. Anyone else?
Number 2, I'm gonna go ahead and bring that out.
All right. If that's all, I would consider a motion on number 1 and number 4.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion to approve.
Second.
Action items 1 and 4 on Michael Morone's report. The motion was made by Commissioner Sanders. The second is by Commissioner Croom. Any discussion or questions before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That is 5-0. Mr. Morone, please proceed with number 2.
Commissioner, would you like me to read? Commissioner, I'm sorry, I'll just discuss it?
This is it. This is it.
Oh.
I mean, this is the final change in this, is what I'm saying. Because we previously approved $60,000, and now it's going up to $85,000. But now, and I don't know if we've got any representatives of the fire department here in Alligator Point or not. But now, and assign okay, so you're gonna assign the $17.50 a month
Yes.
to the Alligator Point Fire Department. And, okay, so that's, I don't have no problem with it. But I wanna make the statement that this is it now. And we're getting it from the CRA funds, right?
Yeah, the CRA, those funds that were returned from the city of Appalachia, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I know that we were gonna, be at the same cost at $60,000 because we were gonna use the SBA tower out there toward St. Teresa. We can't use it, so, because the building's not good.
Yeah.
So I understand that, but, I mean, we can't allow the whole $200,000 of the CRA funds to go to this because the fire departments do get MSBU funds from the county. So that's what I'm talking about. And you need to, we don't mind giving a helping hand because they do a great service. There's nothing about that. But this should have been done and taken care of 6 months ago when they first brought it to us.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm saying. I'm aggravated with it because it's taken so long, and then there's a miscommunication between when they get their calls and stuff. So anyway, I just wanted to make that statement.
Yeah, and it is important to restate, Commissioner, that they are responsible for that, even though it's in the contract, Attorney Schuler, about the tower and that monthly fee. The county does not cover those recurring costs. We just get the system up, running, and they're responsible for that. So they can determine whether they pay it or they want us to deduct it from their MSBU. I will leave that up to them and discuss that with them, but they're responsible for that recurring cost.
That's what those MSBU funds are for.
Yes.
For funding the fire department.
Yes.
What they need to be able to operate. And like I said, I appreciate all the volunteers in this county. But, I mean, this is an issue that needed to be cleared up 6 months ago, and it's still lagging on.
Yes, yeah, unfortunately, things move really slow.
A motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve this from Commissioner Sanders, second by Commissioner Croom. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. All right. Mr.
Commissioner
Roll,
Croom?
number 3.
Commissioner Croom, item number 3, do you need me to read it or you just have a question, sir?
No, I got a question. So with the senior center activity coordinator, this is our second time advertising this.
Yes, sir.
Correct. So if we don't have any more applicants in the second round of advertising, what is our next course of action?
Bring it back to you, and we're gonna have to change the way we approach it. I was trying to, I thought it was better to get an individual to do it with the county, basically being responsible for all the additional costs, but then we will have to revisit maybe something Commissioner Ward had talked about. Maybe we will have to revisit going with a nonprofit. We're gonna pay more, possibly for less services, but we'll have to negotiate that. So that's my plan C, or plan B, basically.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
Michael, this weekend, I talked to 2 prospective people that was interested in it.
Okay.
So I told them to contact you. So
Okay.
they should be contacting you.
Good.
And they were ones that had affiliation with the center before.
Okay.
So.
Good.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I had a couple as well, but I've reached back out to them and they've not returned my phone calls. So I don't know if they just lost interest or what, but I'll keep my feelers out as well, so.
Commissioner Croom, Commissioners, it could have been that we advertised this, and you're gonna see further down the TDC, from Thanksgiving to Christmas and New Year's. So, I mean, come on, a lot of people are out of town, not paying attention to the newspaper and the ads, so we're hoping for the best this time around.
And I got to tell you something. With the technology that you have nowadays in the county, not everywhere in the county, but in the county, a lot of people don't read the newspaper.
Yeah.
The legal ads no more. I mean, they don't.
Well, you're
I
kind of knocking.
can't say it,
You're
but
knocking on the chairman's door, but we'll discuss that some other time there.
It's the truth.
Yes.
I just had one phone call on it. Other than that, I'll make a motion to approve re-advertising this.
Okay. So a motion to approve the re-advertisement of this position.
Second.
All right, from Commissioner Croom, second by Commissioner Ward. Commissioners, is there any more discussion before we vote? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That is also a 5-0 vote.
All right, Commissioners, item 5, the TDC vacant seat advertising. I was discussing this with the chairman, about that, and he brought something to my attention. Apparently, he got a phone call about it, Attorney Schuler. There was a question raised about the Florida law. It's section 112.313, paragraph 3 and paragraph 7 of the statutes that says an advisory board member is prohibited from doing business with his agency. So I think we need to let Attorney Schuler look at that and see if it applies, because that may change the makeup of the TDC board. There's some TDC members that actually have to, because of what they do, they have to do business with the county. We want to make sure we're not setting anybody up to get on the board and then they can't do business with the county, and that might affect their livelihood, because this is a volunteer position, Commissioners. So I would ask the board to ask direct Attorney Schuler to look that up and have a discussion with the board about it at a future meeting before we run that ad again.
Well, hell, we all might as well quit.
Right, that is true.
In a small community, we all do business with the county at some point.
Yeah.
Well, you sell them parts, don't you?
Only if they come through the door, boy. I'm not the only one that they're selling to, though, or buying from.
I think I'm on the one getting the short end. I have to donate all mine, but.
Actually, usually I'm on the short end of the stick, too.
Yeah.
Of the people that sell parts in the county, we're the smallest.
It's kind of challenging from our perspective in this small community to find somebody that doesn't have any connection to
Well,
anything.
hopefully Attorney Schuler could provide some clarity on the situation.
So that's all we're looking for, to be honest with you, is clarity, because one of
Give them an
the
example.
people that wanted to apply said, I'm not applying if it's gonna mean that I can't do any more business that I've already been doing. You know what I mean? So they're just wanting to get that, that's a valid thing to get answered.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if I can, this question with the TDC and that so-called conflict for doing business with your agency that has not come up in many, many years. So it's been a while since I looked at it, but at one point the legislature did pass a section in that law that provided some exceptions to that prohibition.
Yes.
But I have not updated that research in many years, so I just need to get more information and I'll report back either to the board or Mike, however y'all want me to proceed.
That's fine. Yeah, I just think it'd be more prudent to get it answered and put it to rest before we actually advertise for the position and get somebody else in the seat.
All right, Mr. Chairman, if I may, item 6. We have, and I attached that to my report, the new inmate contracts. The chairman, Attorney Schuler, and I met. We reviewed and discussed the possible changes to the contract. We would like to maybe merge all 3 contracts as one, just have language in there that says which department gets how many inmates.
Yes.
But, and here's where we go with the voluntold, I need a commissioner. Oh, see, we need a commissioner to get our notes, basically, and take that to the warden and have a discussion with the warden about that and see if they're good with it.
We just received a new warden out there, and she's not new. I know her from before.
Okay.
So I have a good relationship with her, and if y'all don't mind, I'll go out there and talk to her.
Okay.
Works for me.
And I was thinking, we really don't need it right now, but starting March, when we start the mowing and all that, and the weed eating, we really need that. So if y'all give me the instructions that y'all want, and I will go out there and discuss it and bring it back, hopefully to the next meeting.
So the biggest thing that come out of the discussion we had, so that they've submitted 3 different contracts with us for 3 different entities in the county. Well, I'm fine with us still having one contract that we had before, but in the paragraph where they start labeling how many inmates are for that department, just put A, B, and C.
Yeah.
This department's gonna get this many, up to this many, this department get up to this many, and just have one. It just is a lot cleaner, is the only really thing that come out of our conversation.
Well, in the past, before I came back on board, there was some problems with getting the inmates, and they were their answer out there at the prison was, they didn't have the staff, but they don't realize they don't have to have no staff. If it's community inmates, the county pays our employees for that certification, for having that certification. The county assumes that. They don't have to assume that.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm coming with it. So we'll just, like I said, set me some things that y'all want me to ask her and all that, and I'll go out there and get some answers from them and bring it back to the next meeting.
I can tell you one more thing.
Yes.
and I know how it's been done in the past, but there's a new warden. So this is the way I've understood it's been done in the past, what we've been told. So they can take as many as 4 vans over to the prison to pick up inmates, and sometimes they give them 4 inmates and put 1 in each van.
Oh.
Well, we're wasting our, there's got to be some way for them to communicate to us and say, okay, we're only going to have 6 inmates today. Y'all can bring 1 van and pick them up. Instead of sending 4 vans, 4 employees, paying gas to go over there for, because at the end of the day, if we pick them up that way, we've got to return them the same way.
Right.
That's become absorbent for the county for lower level of inmate service. You know what I mean? So just, that's something else we need to discuss, a better way to make that work.
And Mr. Chairman, that's what I was going to bring up, because it gets frustrating when we get our reports and there's 3 inmates one day, 0 inmates the next day. But I also would like to add, I want our department directors involved as well, because they deal with this every day.
Yeah.
So I would like for you to ask for their input, and if any of them are listening, to get with Commissioner Sanders and give your input, because that's important as well, in my opinion, about how this process is going to work. I don't have the contract. Is there a way you can send me the contract?
It's not on the link where I
Is it on your attachment?
Look for the attachment link.
Okay.
That should be it. All 3.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Sanders, the only thing I had was one Commissioner Jones already said about consolidating the contract and listen, because all of them said the same thing except item 2 on each one.
Yep.
And that's
That's right.
the number of inmates. And I think you're already going to do it anyways, bring up about providing inmates, the amount of inmates that we're not getting, the issue.
Yeah.
So, one of the issues.
Yeah.
The other one is communication.
Yeah,
We already
because
previously discussed.
at one time, Commissioner Crooms, we had the road department and Parks and Recs and the solid waste. We had, 5, 10 inmates a day for each one. But now, from what I understand, part of the problem is too, some of the skilled inmates that they have are not sent to Franklin. They're sent more to the central, to south, to the southern part of the state. So we'll go have a discussion with the warden and just see where we stand at, and then we'll know how to proceed.
Yep. So do we need to do this by motion, Mr. Brown?
No, sir, I just
Direction
wanted,
fine.
direction is fine. You guys are good with Commissioner Sanders. I mean, that was easier than I thought it would be, but yeah.
Why'd you think it was going to be different?
Well,
All right. Let's go ahead and talk about the legislative delegation meeting.
All right, Commissioner, easy enough. That is going to be Monday, the 27th, right here in this room at 10:30 a.m. And, Aaron and Tracy, they're working on the projects that will be submitted as part of legislative funding. That's where we usually start with the list that we present to the representative and the senator here in the room. I don't know if you want to add more. I would ask that if you have other items that's not, we're not requesting funding for, that you please send that to Erin so she can compile that list and have it ready for you, for each of you, when you attend the delegation meeting here on Monday. That was it, basically. Just want to make sure you guys are good with that.
All right. Anyone have any questions about that?
No, back to item 6 for 1 second. If somehow Commissioner Sanders got something going on, I wouldn't mind being the backup for her.
Okay. Yeah,
It's really easy. Wow.
All right.
we want to get this thing straightened out
Yeah,
for
works for me.
springtime. It's gone on long enough. On this legislative delegation, I called Michael the other day, and I think he called you, Mr. Chairman. The governor's calling for a special session to begin on the 27th.
He got a lot of pushback from
Yeah.
the speaker and the Senate
But
president.
he's still governor.
Yeah.
He is.
And
He is.
I wonder how that,
I think, well, they canceled everything for this week because of the weather.
mhm.
So I don't know how that's going to work out.
Yeah.
Because everything they had scheduled for this week will probably roll to next week.
Yeah, because I'm gonna tell you something. It's important that we get that legislative delegation meeting down here. We got some issues down here, and the citizens need to understand that y'all are invited to this, and y'all need to let that state representative and that state senator know how you feel about things. And that's on the state level, because we got good things coming down, and you're gonna start seeing some things coming down from the federal government, and I feel like that with all my heart. but we got to get the state on board too.
Yep.
You know, that's the way it is. I mean,
But I'll double check with Amber at Representative Schultz's
Yeah.
office and just verify and let the public, I'll post something on the website and then I'll let the commissioners know too. If it's changed.
And like Commissioner Sanders just said on item 7, this state delegation meeting, this is the time for you to come and address your concerns with our state legislators. So it's pretty much solely for you all to come forward as well.
It is.
yeah.
Go ahead with number 8, Mr. Brown.
Well, no, that was just informational in
Oh,
case.
is- okay.
Yes, everything else is informational, Mr. Chairman.
All right. All right. Anyone else have anything for Mr. Morone before we move on?
I'm watching the hours. I know you have Attorney Schuler. You're going to have a number of speakers coming up with that.
Yes.
It's one of his items. I don't know if you see her in the background. I'd like, before we get to FWC, because that's probably another long discussion, is Ginger's back there with a quick update, so if we could squeeze her in, no matter what the time is.
Let's do that
And
then,
we do.
because we do have a lot of people that want to speak with Attorney Schuler, so that's probably not going to happen before 10 o'clock. Ms. Ginger, come on down. We will get to all of it as soon as we can, I assure you.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I do have a little handout, Michael, if you don't mind. Ginger Coulter, Franklin County Sheriff's Office. Yeah, I had to take my gloves off. Okay, so I'm here to discuss a new administration building for the Sheriff's Office. Some of you know, well, all of you commissioners know the building that we're in now is about 40 years old. And the sheriff has done a really good job of keeping that building maintained. As a matter of fact, Commissioner Croom was over, I believe it was last week, in the middle of our chaotic mess of us repainting, and we're going to be getting in some new floors. So we try to keep it up and taken very well care of for the county and for the public. But the fact of the matter is we're just really outgrowing the administration building. We have people that are working out of double wides and sheds that we have converted to offices, and we've done that for many, many years. As a matter of fact, I believe the first building was purchased by Sheriff Barnes, and we have consistently used that building on a regular basis, and we've remodeled it multiple times. It currently is a training building and also houses our evidence. We have our care coordinators and one of our youth SRO liaisons in one of the sheds, and also our 911 communications coordinator is in one of the outhouse buildings. There is some concern because particularly with the office that our 911 coordinator is in. It was one of the ones identified with mold last year that we did go through the remediation process as recommended by the company. However, it is an ongoing and recurring problem with this building because of the proximity of the water where it pools around the building. It's like near one of the overflow sections. You can walk in that building and you can smell. I don't know how she works in that building, to be quite honest with you. It's, I believe, a safety issue for her health. But we do need to look at a new administration building. We're outgrowing the building we're in. We really need to put all of the administration in the one building instead of all of these separate little sheds and other buildings that we have. I feel like we have done a very good job over the years maintaining these buildings. We have repaired these buildings and fixed these buildings without asking for extra money in the budget to do so. So we've been very diligent and just really using inmate labor. They really enjoy it, believe it or not, getting out of the jail cells and working on these projects. And this is a project that we propose using as much inmate labor as possible to construct this building. My initial intent was to ask for it in this next budget year as a capital outlay program, but the sheriff really feels an urgency to go ahead and ask for the commissioners to commit to going ahead and let's immediately starting on this project, mostly because of the issues with the 911 office and some of the other offices. So that's what I'm here today, is to start that conversation and see if, invite you guys over and come and take a look at what I'm talking about. I know some of you have been over multiple times, but I don't know that you've actually toured some of these other offices. And again, they look really nice. The care coordinator office in particular looks beautiful inside, but at the end of the day, it is a shed, and it's an old shed. We've had it for many, many years. It used to be our record storage until we moved our record storage. So I just don't know how long we can continue to just keep putting money in these old sheds, fixing them up, making them into offices. But I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, but I mostly just want a commitment from the commissioners to look at this and let us move forward with this. It is the proposed building. It's just something I drew up. I'm obviously not an architect. That's just a rendering of what we would like for the office to look like. 50 by 70 space. I think this is around 35.
70? I was going to ask you that.
Yes, I believe it's 50 by 70 is the proposed building site, and we would want to use probably concrete, whatever the most economical type of building. We're not asking for something with all the bells and whistles. We of course want something nice, but again, utilizing as much inmate labor and oversight from us as possible to help reduce the costs. But I am happy to answer any questions.
Ginger, where you want to try to locate this at?
So currently where our investigations building is, which is another building that's a double wide, we want to place it somewhere right around there potentially. That property, I believe, is school board, so the sheriff wants to work with Steve Lanier and see what we can come up with as far as some type of agreement with the county to use that. If that's not an option, we have plenty of, the county owns plenty of property right through there, so we may have to move the exact location, but we want it right there at the sheriff's office for obvious reasons. We need to be there.
So what about the other buildings you have? You're going to do away with those, correct?
The sheds we will do away with. The investigation building for now will stay because that one was replaced just a few years ago because it was damaged in Hurricane Michael and had tremendous mold, and the county actually received a settlement from the insurance company for the mold for that building, and they did purchase a new double wide. So that building is not too terribly old. I believe, like I said, we probably finalized that in 2019, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not too terribly old, but in the future that building obviously will need to be replaced, but that's not something we're concerned about right now. We're more concerned with the other buildings.
Yeah, so it might be easier, just a thought, it might be easier if you're going to locate something in a different area to get some of those buildings that are kind of portable, go ahead and move those and create a site up front for this building to go.
We could certainly do that. It would just be bigger, and of course, we were just trying to be a little more cost effective for the county, but we would definitely entertain that, make a bigger building to house everyone.
Right. So this looks like everybody pretty much will be moved. That's the administrative part.
The administration part.
Moving out.
Yes, and
so what are you going to do with the other building when you move all the administration?
That's going to be all law enforcement. So right now we have a mixture of law enforcement and administration. We're going to pull the administration out and put in that building so that all the law enforcement can be more in that one building, with the exception of the investigators, who will be separate for the time being, but will probably transition over into the other building.
That was my thing about the other building. So as of right now, you got all the sheds out there.
Correct.
I see it all the time. That's where our deputies are. So our deputies will be coming inside into the old administration building.
We will definitely have more space for them in the what is currently now the administration building. Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I got a quick question. I don't know if you can answer this, Ginger. I was out there last week. I had a meeting with Mr. Bill Williams. I didn't happen to count the building. I actually saw the sheriff while I was out there, and he told me about this. I didn't count the buildings. Do you know how many buildings that this would replace?
Okay, so we have the care coordinator's office, the 911 office. It would definitely replace those two. If you're talking about the investigations and victim advocate as well, that would be 3 buildings. As of right now, the visitation, which is also in a small shed, I believe that will be fine just staying there because no one is in that office. I mean, it's not really an office. It's just visitation that's used from time to time for, people to come in and speak on the phone with the inmates. So it's not like somebody sitting in there 8 hours a day. It's just used occasionally. So I don't see the need to get rid of that necessarily. Just mostly the offices.
So you're just going
office
to
space.
basically replace three buildings essentially.
Three,
Three
yeah.
important
If we do the investigations, if you're wanting to include investigations and victim advocate, correct.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
Ginger, that jail was built in 80-84, that time period.
Yes, ma'am.
Out through there. I remember that very well. But anyway, if you need, I like the idea that Chairman Jones said about the portable, just bring it in. Always plan for the future, though. And if you see that there's a need for something else other than what you need right there, go ahead and plan for it and go ahead and get it. And then that way, when you need it, you got it.
Yes,
You know
ma'am.
what I'm saying? That's when I said, although we like to keep the costs down.
Right.
too.
Well, if
So-
the commissioners are on board with that, we can certainly go back and draw a bigger one to accommodate the larger space. But we do want it a permanent structure, not a temporary, but absolutely we.
And so you're saying when you drive up the driveway there, it'd probably be on your left hand
On the left,
side?
correct.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that, you got plenty of room out in there.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
You should be able to put you a good sized building there.
Yes, ma'am.
That's good.
Mr. Chairman, I
don't
got
have no problem.
a question. All right, if we're talking about all this.
Yes,
Next
ma'am.
thing we got to talk about is money.
Correct.
So I don't know if Erin's still on the line.
She is.
Would this potentially, because it's not coming out of the sheriff's office budget, it was not budgeted.
That is
for
correct.
Sheriff's office budget. So this would maybe come out of capital outlay?
So we'll
Okay.
do it to our capital improvement plan, and then we need to get some estimates and start thinking about funding as we get closer to budget time.
Yes.
Yeah, Commissioner, we don't have anything, set aside in our capital outlay fund this year for that type of project. So my suggestion would be to add it to the capital improvement schedule at our second meeting in February, which that'll actually put it on there for the slate of funding. And then we can actually discuss it, when we go through the next budget cycle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is this, Mr. Chairman, Ginger, you might not be able to answer this question. I don't know what legislative appropriations you guys are going out for this year. Is this something y'all might can add to that?
I'm not sure, but I know the sheriff, he will not make any qualms about asking for, some assistance. I mean,
I like that.
You got to love our sheriff. I mean, he has brought a lot of revenue sources to our county. Of course, most of it is funneled through the sheriff's office, but just that the added benefit to the county of some of the programs that we've added has just been phenomenal for the county. So I will take that back to him and see what he already has slated to ask. I know he probably will ask for some type of appropriations. I'm not sure what he already has planned for, but I will mention this to him and see if that's something he can consider adding to
Yeah,
that.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's still got to happen. I understand
It does.
that. I really do. But I'm just trying to think of money here.
Sure.
And trying to be respectful of that. And if it never hurts to ask. If they say no, then we'll still have to maybe come up with a way.
Right.
But, and we'll come up with a way, but it never hurts to ask. And maybe they will say, okay, we'll give you $100,000.
Right.
Any little bit helps. And if they say no, they say no.
That's right. And, we're not against looking at other funding, through grants and all of that. We're perfectly fine with that. I think the important thing is, though, that we do move forward as quickly as we can because of the issue with the, particularly the 911 office. I am very concerned. I went out there a couple of months ago myself, and when I opened the door, honestly, the odor assailed me, and which I do have a more sensitive smell than a lot of people. I can pick up on scents probably more so than just anybody in the office. But I asked her, I said, how can you even work in this? And she does have a dehumidifier that she runs 24/7 out there, and it's a fairly good size, and she's having to empty that constantly. So that shows there is definitely a lot of moisture buildup in that building. So I would just really, I know we do have to go through the process, and Erin's phenomenal at that, but I do just recommend that we move forward with this as quickly as possible so that we can get this going.
Ginger, also, if you don't mind, while you're talking to the sheriff about the concerns that Commissioner Ward had, also bring up the part that the chairman did about the portable building and what we could do or whatever else we've got out
Are you
there.
talking about using the portable building for some other?
No.
Talking about moving them so the building can be built up front, not
Yeah.
further back.
Yeah.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
just talking about moving the buildings
Yes.
closer, the permanent building, moving it closer
Yes.
toward the front?
Yes. So
Okay, yes.
any of the temporary buildings we have that are up front,
Could be
if
moved
there's
to.
other room, let's move those to the back and create a site for that front building.
Sure, absolutely.
That's
I
what I'm
mean,
talking about.
it would be something more appealing to the eye as well.
Yes.
So I think that he would be absolutely fine with
Yeah,
that.
do that. And because like I said, it's just like you all during budget come in here, you needed the X amount of money for the deputies, and we worked it down to where
Yes.
we're going to give you part here this year, part next year.
Yes, ma'am.
So, and you got to work. You got to work together because we all serve the common purpose, and that's the people.
Yes, ma'am.
So, that's
Mr. Chairman,
what it is.
Anyone else?
Commissioner Ward, I was going to say, make sure, if it really would be helpful, the sheriff is here on Monday, you and the sheriff will be here on Monday to speak to the representative and the senator.
Is that going to be here at the courthouse
Yes.
Monday? Is there a particular time?
10:30?
10:30 a.m.?
Think they're,
Yep.
yeah, that's the
Okay.
delegation meeting, they're both here.
Okay.
And yes, the sheriff is not afraid to ask, so yes. that would
And
be really
please
good.
ask the sheriff to come because although he's sick, he don't want nobody to think that he can't do his job. And he is an awesome guy.
Yes, he
I
is.
like him.
Yes, thank
Myself.
you, thank you.
He's
Without anything else, we'll move to that thing that was time certain. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you so much.
With,
Do you want to take a quick break before you get to FWC?
well,
or
we're
not?
already 7 minutes behind our time-sensitive item, sir.
That's fine.
Mr. John's not here, though, but Mr. Devon is here.
Yes, yes, he is.
Oh,
in
John,
fact.
okay, I didn't see you sneak in. Come on up here, guys. John Creamer, Devon Resco, and Miss Erica Burgess. All right, let me see. Apalachicola Bay Restoration and Bear-Resistant Trash Cans. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I'll focus on the oysters. I'll have John focus on the bears.
Ah, come on.
Morning, Commissioners. So really have two main topics to discuss today. Commissioner Ward spoke to me before the meeting to talk about the recent issues with some of the rock that's been out there. Do you want to start with that? I don't want to steal your thunder or anything, so.
As long as the chairman and the board and the audience is okay with that, yes. But I did mention I had another issue where an individual was out in his boat and hit some rocks formation. And I just want to ensure that our community's safe and not have to worry about any navigational hazard that's out there in our bay from these restoration efforts. So, yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
Absolutely. And so regarding that issue, I believe it happened in late December. But Commissioner Ward was very on top of it, reached out to FWC to provide us notification of this. Shortly after getting that notification, myself, John Creamer, and Captain Charlie Wood have all been in contact with the individual and responded accordingly. Speaking on my engagement with the individual, everything's been cordial. He's, just like you said, Commissioner Ward, just wants to make sure that everything was done correctly. He understands the benefit for the oysters. So our conversation ended with both of us giving each other some information. He's going to provide me all the coordinates for FWC to check out. I'm also going to give him coordinates of all the restoration areas that we have done, just so he's aware and familiar with some of those areas. He had some questions about, were you guys restoring on historical oyster bars, or were you just putting it in random spots? So we were able to clear that up, that we have been working on only oyster bars. And so we're going to provide both parties with some information. Once I do have that information, TJ Saunders, he is our site observer. So he'll be able to get out on the water and really get some firsthand eyes and look on these rocks. Yes, like you said, Commissioner, FWC's priority in developing and performing this restoration project that was done in 2024 was to do so in a safe manner. We obviously want to bring the oysters back, but we want to make sure that it was done safely. So our site observer, TJ, he was either on the water directly observing all the work or was in constant communication, daily communication, with our contractor, getting detailed updates and information on all the work as it was going on.
Mr. David, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
So this actually started back in July.
A little bit earlier
Around
than
July
that, but
4th.
yes.
And we're
right.
now 7 or 8 months later having the same discussion. You didn't put stuff all over the bay. The stuff that was put out by whoever was doing the work and whoever was observing the site was supposed to only be a foot and a half, maybe 2 foot deep in most areas, is what you've informed this board. But we're still having problems with rock that's 6 or 7 foot deep. This needs to be finished, needs to be done. I don't know what about 6 months of time period, why we're still talking about the same problems.
Right, so
it seems like, I'm sorry.
No.
It seems like we're waiting for complaints to come in before we actually do any work. If you only covered 50 acres of bar material, go to those 50 acres and make sure it's nothing sticking out the water. I mean, I'm sorry, but I don't know why we're still talking about this 7 months later.
Yes, sir. So the instance that happened in July near Monkey's Elbow, that happened July 4th, July 5th. We were on the water with the contractor. We had law enforcement out there as well, and all restoration operations ceased. They only focused on that area to confirm it. After everything was flattened to correct heights and correct depths, we performed a lot of mapping, just mowing the lawn is what we call, just mapping all of the bottom to get 2D and 3D information on those areas. Everything has been checked at Monkey's Elbow. We have not found any issues of rock sticking out at that area. So the issues that were brought up in late December are on Cat Point. So there is the instance of Cat Point being a very shallow area, restored or not restored. I know the winter tides are very extreme, especially if you have a north wind. It can really empty out the bay. So in the conversation that we've had with the individual, also talking with our research team, law enforcement who's out on the water regularly, we are going to check these areas once we get the coordinates to see if this is an issue. If there is, we will take appropriate action like we did on Monkey's Elbow. But we also need to remember that we are working on historical oyster bars that are degraded. And being degraded, they've lost a lot of the material that has historically been present. Even a few decades ago, that had quite a bit more material on Cat Point, East Hole, Platform, etc. So this restoration, by building these reefs up, which we have seen preliminary results that are quite positive in bringing these oysters back, there's going to be more material present than what has been there in the last few years, decade, 2 decades or so. So we need to make sure that FWC does the restoration in a safe and correct manner. We also need to make sure that mariners are knowledgeable of the restoration work that is being done, so there's going to be more material present, and ensuring that they're exercising due caution in navigational law moving forward. We've done, especially on Cat Point, hundreds of transect lines mapping the bottom, 2D, 3D data, and everything that we've seen, we have not seen any issues of rock sticking out. When we were also mapping at low tides, not at the winter lows, but at low tides, to understand where these areas were. Now, if there are any issues, what I've been hearing from Florida State University, who's out on Cat Point specifically quite a bit, is there may be some areas to check on, but they're the size of like a table. And so when you do look at 77 acres of restoration, something the size of the table can get missed in the mapping. We are not completely blanket mapping all 77 acres. That's just impossible for our operations. But if we do find something, whether it's we hear from a mariner, we hear from another research agency, our own agency, we are going to take the necessary and immediate action to go and correct those issues. Like I said, we've been in contact with the individual. TJ has been kind of on call. It's been difficult not only for our site observer, but even our research team to get out onto the bay just because the tides have been so low. So that is the number one thing on my to-do list, is once we have those coordinates from the individual and the conditions permit us to get out on the water, we are immediately going to these areas on Cap Point to see if there are any issues that we need to take care of. And I will make sure that everyone is updated one way or the other. If it is something where it was deployed at the correct depth, it was just an extremely low tide, we believe that everything was done in compliance, or if there is something that we need to take action on, and we will do that.
Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
Real quick on that. I know it's impossible to put, I mean, you're talking about a pretty good sized area as far as signage on the water, but is there any way we could possibly at the public boat ramps put a sign up, an informational sign, and give some coordinates where the restoration or where the pilot study's being done at, and just, you know, just to get more information out there? I know we posted coordinates on our website and whatnot, but just a thought. I mean, you know, we got something that says something about a sturgeon out there. Might as well say something about a pilot study in the area. That way mariners have an idea.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can look into that for sure, and I can be in touch with Michael on any updates on that.
Just a thought that popped in my head.
Yeah, it'll certainly increase outreach and awareness. Yeah, I agree.
So I want to ask a follow-up question. So you're talking about the ability to get out there with the site observer. So the site observer, is somebody present watching them when they're dumping these rocks out, or are they just dumping them how they want to?
Nope. Well, like I said, we had a site observer who was Mr. Saunders here, who was either on the water directly observing the restoration that was taking place, or getting detailed check-ins. Hey, we're on the water. This is from the contractor. Contractor is on the water. Contractor is starting restorations and then ending restorations every single day that the work was being done. And all restoration sites have been mapped post-restoration to make sure that they were done correctly.
Yet we're still having this problem.
That's what happened.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, over 77 acres with all this restoration. The areas that may pose an issue that we will take corrective action are very small, the size of a table. So over 77 acres, something this size will not be caught necessarily in the mapping. Most of it will be. That's why we've not had a lot of issues. Over 77 acres, we have not had many issues at all. So we want to determine, is this an issue that we need to take care of? These points on Cap Point that the individual found, do we need to take care of them? Is this an issue, or is this simply an extremely low tide event on a shallow area?
So this is just the pilot study, correct? We've not started doing full-scale restoration, correct?
That is correct.
We better watch out if we do a full scale.
Well, I mean, I'm not trying to overplay my hand, but
I know.
I don't get how if we actually have a site observer on site. Now, if they're just taking the contractor's word that they've done the job right, that's a whole nother discussion. A whole nother discussion.
Absolutely.
But if they're on site and they're allowing them to dump 6 foot of rock where there's supposed to be 1.5 foot, doesn't matter about the high or low tide. At some point, I don't put but so much sugar in my tea. And I can't just dump the whole bag because I got the whole bag in my hand.
Yeah, I have seen and I was even out on the water for some of the operations, but I received no correspondence that there was any time when 6 to 7 feet of rock was deployed in the areas that we've discussed for this study.
Okay, that's the only questions I'll ask about it.
Well, Mr. Chairman, can I follow up on that?
Yep, you can.
I appreciate that. I've had several of the oysterman people around the county call me, tell me the same thing, and I brought it to somebody's attention. I want to say the last time y'all was here, and it was Cap Point. And it doesn't matter if it's the size of the table or if it's the size of the building. It's still doing damage to people's boats. And that's what you got to look at, Devin. Now, y'all got 17 million, added on 10 million. Y'all need to help these people out with the damage that they're getting to the boats. And it's because simply it's not being communicated, whether it's by y'all, whether it's by whoever, that this is out there. Now, what I was told when I asked the question, I was trying to remember, was, oh, it's humped up now, but before, and that's when they originally placed the product, but before they leave out of there, they're gonna swap it down to where you won't have it. But you still got it happening. So you got problems out there.
Yes,
And it shouldn't be on the back of anybody that owns a boat that's traveling to that. It should be on y'all's back, or whoever's monitoring it. And that's the way I feel. You need to contact these people and make it right with them.
Yes, and so law enforcement has been in touch with the individual that Commissioner Ward communicated with us regarding this incident. But yes, that is, again, my number one priority is once we're able to get out on the water, Cat Point, we are going to focus our efforts on, and I'll provide all updates moving forward.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Devin, you said the site observer and y'all do the mapping. Do y'all continually do the mapping to ensure that these rocks don't form into a big pile where boats can hit them and damage their prop or bottom of the boat? Is that something y'all are consistently doing?
So we did pretty much immediate post-restoration mapping once all of the restoration, the deployment, and the flattening out has been done. Just to kind of confirm that everything had been done, scope of work had been met with the contractor, et cetera. But we are going to do more thorough mapping now that everything has been completed. That's just something that we're waiting on the weather to allow. But yes, we are slated to do more thorough, like I said, mowing the lawn on all of these areas to do mapping as well. And that's something in our more long-range budget and forecast is to get a little bit better mapping equipment. This has certainly been working, but we're talking to all the different types of companies to maybe get some more high-tech data and equipment to do more thorough mapping in the very near future. Because like Commissioner Sanders said, we have additional restoration funding ready to go soon, so we want to make sure that we are doing the best we can with our mapping moving forward.
And Mr. Chairman, just one more thing, because I know we need to move on. But this is, as Chairman Jones stated, the second time we've got this reports of rocks. And both times there have been vessels damaged. The next time, I do not want to hear of someone getting hurt or killed. I don't want that on my, I know you guys don't either, but that's why it's very important that we keep up with this and remediate it as quickly as possible. And I appreciate the community for being out there and keeping eyes on it and alerting us when something goes wrong, because I'm not on the water every day. I don't have, there's times people see things that I don't. So I appreciate the public. We got people that know that water like the back of their hands, and so I appreciate them letting us know. So, and you don't mind if I get reached out by individuals, giving them your contact information if this happens again, right?
Please do so.
Okay.
Just like on the 4th. I was notified on the 4th. We were on the water on the 5th. So yes, absolutely.
I appreciate that.
That's
Thanks,
no problem. So the other point that I wanted to discuss today is regarding the fishery management. Like Mr. Williams said just a little bit earlier, 2026 is quickly approaching. So over the past couple of years, FWC's been researching and monitoring the bay's oyster and habitat, but we've also been engaging with a lot of stakeholders and performing restoration. Like Commissioner Sanders said, we had $17 million from NIFWIF. We had a $10 million state allocation this past fiscal year, and in this current upcoming fiscal year, we are requesting an additional $20 million for restoration of Apalachicola Bay. So while doing all this researching and monitoring, engagement, restoration, there have been some areas in the bay that are starting to show promising numbers of oysters, particularly adult market-sized oysters. But those areas are relatively small, and they are areas that have received restoration. We have not been able to find any areas in the bay that have not received restoration that are showing a significant uptick in oyster population. So the restored areas are looking good, but the unrestored areas are not looking good. So all in all, when you look at the bay as itself, as a whole, there are areas that are showing some signs that are promising, but overall the bay is not showing many signs of recovery. So With that, knowing that 2026 is approaching, FWC is in the early stages of a plan focused on what we're calling an experimental fishery come 2026, particularly in the fall of 2026. And this would allow FWC to gather important, very important information on how these oyster bars respond to a limited harvest. So with that, no specific elements of the experimental fishery have been developed. So no bag limits, the number of participants, what bars would be open, what bars would be closed. None of that has been developed because we want to make sure that we have input and engagement with stakeholders. Franklin County oyster harvesters, wholesalers, charters, et cetera. We also welcome communication and engagement from this board as well. So with that, we are going to be holding quite a few workshops come in the spring to discuss this very matter. We have at least 2 that we will be scheduling in Franklin County. We want to do so to maximize the participation for stakeholders. So the logistics, we've been talking with Mr. Williams, also keep Michael updated of all updates, but what the day of the week, time, place, et cetera, we want to make sure that we do so that we get the most people in attendance to voice their opinions and really be able to communicate and engage with FWC on this matter because it is such an important matter. In addition to the at least 2 workshops in Franklin County, we'll also have some others sprinkled around the state. We'll also have 2 virtual ones. So with that one, individuals will be able to join in and engage with FWC from a computer or a cell phone. So again, we'll have a lot of these updates coming forth very soon over the next month or so, and I'll make sure that Michael has those updates to provide to all of you. We'll also continue to work with stakeholders and with local working groups, such as the Seafood Work and Watermen's Association, as well as the Partnership for a Resilient Apalachicola Bay. We also have, I can provide a little bit of a schedule of the outlook of oyster-related topics that are going to be brought to the FWC Commission. So next month in February, we are going to be providing a presentation updating the FWC Commission on the Florida oyster. So statewide oysters will obviously be focusing on Apalachicola Bay, but we will be talking about oysters in Florida from a very general standpoint. Again, that is in February in Tallahassee. In August.
What day, Devin?
I know it's 26, 27.
27,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
So that is in February in Tallahassee. In August, we will focus on proposed rule for the Apalachicola Bay fishery. So that'll be in August. Also in Tallahassee. And then following that one in August, in November, we will have final rule hearing for the Apalachicola Bay fishery management. In November, location TBD, but I can provide those updates to Michael as well. I'm going to be blowing up your email inbox, it seems like, with updates, but I'll make sure that he has those updates to provide to you guys. For all of those commission meetings, public comment is welcomed and encouraged, positive, negative, or neutral. So that's kind of our outlook on what we have on the slate for 2025 for the Apalachicola Bay oyster fishery management.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask Devin a question? Yes. I hate to go back to it, but I'm going to. Devin, is the commission aware of people having their property damaged by all this? Is the commission aware of it? Mr. John, are they aware of it?
Are specific commissioners aware of the incidents?
No, is the FWC commissioners aware of this? Okay, I just want to make sure.
Mr. Chairman, I got a question. I don't know if this is more for, well, I guess it is for Devin. And the burning question, and then I don't want to put you on the spot, but you know it's a burning question. Coming to the end, at the end of 2025, the closure that FWC put on our bay. Mm-hmm. Can you give us a time? I know you just gave us a timeline, but our people want to know, what's the plan after December?
Yeah, so I'm going to introduce, I recently took over as the biological administrator for oysters, so I have a statewide perspective in my job, and so switching over to a different section within marine fisheries This is my supervisor, Erica Burgess. She's a section leader for analysis and rulemaking, so I'll provide the floor to Erica.
Good morning, Commissioners. It's very nice to meet some of you for the first time and to see those of you who I've met before again. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. Devin we're very excited that we've been able to hire him on in this position to lead oyster management within our division. He outlined things today of what staff has in mind. Ultimately, everything, the final decision lies with our commissioners. And he gave you a preview today that we have not yet brought before our commissioners, so you're actually getting to hear it before them, which is something we rarely do. So what staff intends to bring forward and discuss with them this year is just what staff intends. It's not the final outcome. It's not pre-decided. But expanding upon what Devin discussed, our intention is to recommend that the bay remain closed to general harvest of oysters after December 31st. What we've learned from the system is that it has not recovered like it has in the past. This is not the situation we're looking at after Hurricane Elena, where there was a drop in the population and then it naturally rebuilt. We're only seeing successful recruitment and growth and recovery of oysters on sites that have been restored, and we haven't restored nearly to the amount that would support the fishery of the times past. We also don't know what future conditions in the bay will look like. We don't think that the bay is operating under the same situation that it was in the 1980s and 1990s. So our plan is to use this experimental fishery to better understand what proportion of legal-sized oysters we should allow to be harvested, what type of harvest strategies we can use, and then how many people can we actually support through a fishery for employment on the bay without undoing all of the work and investment in restoration that has been provided to this bay and to this community.
Follow-up question, Mr. Chairman. You know, there's $27 million in funding right now, and I know there's multiple studies going on with different entities. What happens when you run out of the money?
So our intent to recommend to our commissioners is to do what we're doing this year. We've requested an additional $20 million. And for us to achieve the restoration goals that we would like, which we're going to suggest restoration to 2,000 acres, which is going to require continued reculching and re-putting out of material afterwards, it's looking at a budget of $30 to $55 million each year.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yep. Apparently I missed a lot.
Can you stand back up if you don't mind?
Apparently I missed a lot. I apologize.
You didn't.
Huh?
You didn't really miss a lot.
Huh?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Is it okay?
Yeah, oh yeah.
All right. Back up on what you said. What did you say the recommendation was going to be as of December 31st, 2025, 2026?
So there's a few steps before now and then. So the first step is to present the general update to our commissioners in February.
Yeah.
And we're going to discuss what we'll likely be recommending, which is a suggestion that we can maintain a closure for general harvest into 2026 and establishing a limited experimental fishery to better understand what regulations we should put in place once the bay has reached restoration levels that we can support a fishery.
So my question would be, going back to what we were told, what everybody was told. When the FWC commission closed, I was the only one of our current commission that attended that meeting on behalf of this commission to speak under public comments. I talked to them about the way of life that our people here have enjoyed, the opportunity that some have to supplement their income through seafood. Not everybody that's going out there is going out there for 50 hours a week. And also our brand. And if I'm not mistaken, the motion I heard from them was that no matter what's going on, by January 1st, 2026, they're going to be reopening the bay for commercial harvest. It is kind of, I guess, where we're really maybe, and I understand what you're saying and I understand why you're saying it, but we still don't have clear definitions We don't really know what you're talking about when you say limited license. Are you talking about limited to 400 people, limited to 100 people, limited to 50 people? We don't have any clear definitions. So none of that, we're talking about terms that aren't defined. So we might as well not talk about it because we don't have a definition. Definitions let us all know where we're working off of. If there's anything that's been lacking in what's going on so far is the fact that there's a lot of talk, but there's nothing defined. So nobody knows what's really being talked about. We've had issues that we've talked about several times, and I'm not unloading. I'm just discussing issues. We represent the people of Franklin County. We are their voice. That's all we're trying to do is issue their voice today. We've talked about the tolerability of stuff that's been put in the bay. It got put in the bay anyway. I know this is a pilot study, but if we're going forward to a full-scale restoration, these things need to be considered. We need diversity in the industry, so everything doesn't need to be aquaculture. There needs to be, and I told you guys this last time I met with y'all in East Point, that I will always fight for the people of Franklin County to have the opportunity to go out and harvest oysters if that's what they choose to do for a living or to supplement their income. Something that's the way of life they grew up with. I don't want a limited entry that's going to wind up 20 years from now, there's not going to be anybody left oystering because they've all passed on or passed away. So there has to be something that's going to add new people to the mix, and there has to be a way for that to happen. Now, one of the other things is, and this is just from a personal perspective, growing up here and watching the way these things go. I haven't worked on the bay all my life, but my family had a seafood house and a retail market when I was growing up. Oysters in that bay are no different than peanuts that grow in Georgia. Some years are better than other years. But just because you have a lean year does not mean we need to stop everybody from working and make it a science project. Here's where I'm going with that. So I asked a question, this was before the bay was ever closed. There was someone at Lynn's eating lunch, and I was in there today talking to them, and they were talking to some of the guys shucking oysters. It's good that it's warm in here, right? Mm-hmm. It's better being cold. But he was a marine biologist. I don't know if he worked with FWC, that's not what I'm saying. But he was discussing with those guys about, doing research on the bay. And I asked him, I said, sir, can I ask you a question? I don't try to interrupt people's conversations, but I want to ask you a question. I said, where are you putting something that replicates the conditions of Apalachicola Bay that changes sometimes by the hour for your study? Of course, he can answer that. The bay is the only place you can do that. And I know that's what FWC is doing. So we're thankful for that. We're glad that's taking place. But at the same time, we're also 4 years into a restoration, and you guys have been really working for the last year as far as putting material in the bay. For the first 3 years, nothing really happened. So the people have an expectation for it to open January 1st, 2026. That's all I'm trying to say.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. And what we're looking for today, too, is your feedback on what I discussed as what staff might recommend to our commissioners. So if the idea of an experimental fishery is unappealing to you, we'd love to get your feedback. We'll be sharing your feedback with our commissioners.
Yes.
And I do hope that some of you, if not all of you, will be able to attend our commission meeting in February.
Where's it going to be at?
Tallahassee.
Okay.
What day is
date
that?
and time, please?
January.
Oh, you got it? Okay. You got it with Michael? Okay, that's fine.
And Mr. Chairman, I just want to say one thing. I
Yes.
appreciate y'all being here.
Yes.
This is not an easy topic. And
No.
what we're talking, we're not directing it towards you guys. You have
No.
a job, we understand that. We got people in this audience right here that's worked the water their whole life.
Yep.
All they want to do is get back out there and work.
Yep.
I didn't work the water, but my family did. My grandfather had a seafood house here on 98. I want to see that happening again. I know we'll never be able to walk across boats from East Point to Appalach, them people out there oystering. Back in the day, you used to do that. You can't anymore. And I know we'll probably never get back to that point, but it's a point that I'd like to see some people out there be able to do, as Chairman Jones stated. So our frustration's not directed towards y'all.
No,
We
no.
just want answers for the people that, as Chairman Jones said, we serve every day. that we're their voice. And I know they probably have been in contact with you guys too, but we're their voice.
Absolutely. And we'll continue to communicate our updates moving forward, whether it's in the Bay or in the classroom talking about management of this fishery, particularly for these workshops where we can, Mr. Chairman, get a lot of those definitions moving forward. We want to make sure that we have engagement and input from stakeholders. They are certainly an important component of this fishery, and we want to maximize the opportunity that they have at the decision-making table. So we're going to be working very quickly and efficiently to get those workshops scheduled. Like I said, we'll provide all these updates to Michael moving forward. And yeah, if there's any more communication that you guys would like from us, whether it's one-on-one, we're more than happy to also come back to future meetings here to provide those updates. But yeah, we just want to make sure that your guys' voice and the voice of the people you represent are well heard moving forward.
Well, Mr. Chairman, as I stated before, and as I spoke with Mr. Kramer back, I don't know, months back, all the people want too is updates and answers and the communication line to be open, which I appreciate you reaching out to the individual that contacted me, because that's what they just want. They want to be able to have that line of communication open. They want to know what's going on with the Bay that they've lived on and worked on their whole life. I totally get that, and I appreciate you guys being forthcoming and being able to accommodate that. So yeah, I want you guys to come update us as much as you can, because that's what we want, and that's what our people want.
Yeah, and I can't tell you how many people I've either been in contact via email or phone call where people just call me up and say, hey, I live in Franklin County, I'm just curious about what's going on. So we are having those kind of one-on-one communication with folks to keep them updated. And yeah, we'll continue to do so moving forward.
Mr. Chair, I got something. Devin, you mentioned about community engagement. Have you all started community engagement with our stakeholders and our seafood workers, or are you just waiting to March, I think you said, to do that?
So I would say springtime is when we're going to really ramp up. Yeah. But we have been having communication with folks, whether it be through like one of the working groups, such as like the Partnership for Resilient Apalachicola Bay, and pretty much all of the folks that I email or talk to on the phone, I kind of finish the communication saying, every now and then, FWC, Erica, John, a few others, we'll make it a day where we just come down and meet with stakeholders. So I always finish my communication with, do you want me to let you know and reach out to you on, hey, on next Wednesday, we're going to be in town? And they almost always say, yeah, let me know. So I know I've met with some of the commissioners here kind of one-on-one on some of those days. So yeah, we still perform outreach with folks down here. But I would say in the springtime, especially with these workshops, that's when we're really going to ramp it up.
Like, I'm with Commissioner Ward on this, like, about communication. That's what people want, and want to be able to know. How are you disseminating this information out on your workshops and everything? Yeah, so like, how are you getting the information out?
So workshops are new for Devin, so I'll take this over for him. We use a multi-pronged approach when we do workshops. We're required to notice them in the Florida Administrative Register, and those have to come out 10 days before the workshop. But we will also individually email those who've made contact with Devin to let them know where we're going to be, when we're going to be, and to invite them to be there. We will do social media posts. We will do a press release that goes out to the local news media, and we will also email you and Mr. Marone so that he can spread the word. But it is open. These meetings are open to anyone and everyone, and we are willing to also have small group meetings. So if there's a smaller group with a shared interest who wants to meet one-on-one after we've had or before we have a public workshop, we will make time to meet with those individuals as well. And we feel that the more conversations we can have with individuals, whether they're formal workshops or not, the better. Devin has been coming down to Apalachicola for longer than the time that he's been in this position, and we look to continue that. But we will be coming more intensively as we lead up to a proposed rule hearing. What we've been doing so far has been information gathering, and we're kind of at the point where we need to stop the information gathering and start putting what we know and what we've learned into an action, and that's the next step.
Mr. Chairman. Yep, ma'am. Question for you, Eric. On this February, what you said, 27th, 28th, is going to be a 20-something with the FWC Commission. Is the experimental study
opening going to be what y'all going to pitch then?
We're going to
Or-
let them know that we have this idea and this concept. We're not asking for formal approval of that at this time. What we'd like to do is gauge their interest in it. If they say no go at that point, then we drop the matter. If they say they're interested, we'll pursue it with our legal team to find out what we can and cannot do, and with public workshops to gather the public's input about what an experimental fishery should look like.
That's going to be my next question. Do y'all have an idea of what is an experimental?
So an
study?
experimental fishery would be something where we define and we specify who's allowed to participate, where they can fish, when they can fish, how much they can take, and we'll have an observer out with them, likely to monitor their activities, to monitor what they bring up. And that is all the details that I can give, because we're meeting with our legal team this week to learn more about what is open to us for options.
And the reason I'm sure next Wednesday is going to be a very interesting meeting. But my fellow commissioners obviously can't attend those meetings, so I'm trying to pick some of the stuff right now and see, or pick your brain. I'll have plenty of time to do that next Wednesday, I'm assuming. But just to throw this out there, and I'm sure you'll hear plenty of other people say this before, during, and after Wednesday, next week's meeting. But you're talking about doing an experimental study. You got to keep in mind, whoever those fishermen are, they still got to make a living. I mean, it's going to get really in the weeds, I guess. But what I'm saying is what's going to happen if you don't have a fisherman that wants to go fishing when you want to go fishing. You follow what I'm saying? How are they going to make a living? How are they going to support their family? That's just some thoughts. But like I said, we're obviously going to have more in-depth discussion about this down the road. Just got my other fellow commissioners. I want to bounce back to something real quick with Devin on this deployment of the material. Can you explain to us how this material was deployed? Was it, because I don't know if everybody, and I'm asking this just so everybody has an idea, but this material wasn't broadcasted out. It was kind of pretty much just pushed out with a excavator, and then it had to flatten it out, correct? So, could you explain the deployment process? So that way all these commissioners, we can understand more of how there may be a table sitting out there in 77 acres, just to...
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start on the entrance into Apalachicola Bay. So they came on very large hopper barges all the way from Kentucky down into the bay. They were set off a little bit off of the bars, and that was kind of the staging area. The rock was then moved off those larger barges onto much smaller barges. At that point, a tug would move it over to the bar. So let's just say platform, because I know they worked on there. You then move the smaller barge onto platform and say, this is the area that we are going to perform restoration on. At that time, the tug would have another barge that has the excavator. So you have two barges. They would basically be spun around to where the excavator is grabbing the rock and then deploying it. So when you think about it, if it's spinning around, there's going to be kind of like a little donut of material that is deployed. So once the barges have deployed sufficient amount of material, that's when the spreading would happen. And I kind of would consider it like you're spreading icing on a cake. So first you're putting the dollops on the cake, then you start spreading it out. So that's what was done over the 77 acres. And then just when you think, a lot of the restoration work that's been done previously in the bay was not at this level, of this size. So with this much larger scaled event, 77 acres, there are areas, when you think of 77 acres, even with all of the smoothing out operations that took place, there potentially are some instances where something the size of a table or so was spread in such a manner to where it would not be the correct height. That's what we saw at Monkey's Elbow. And additional spreading was done post July 4th throughout the rest of the work. All the restoration sites received extra smoothing operations is what they called them. So again, with this site in Cat Point, What we really want to determine is this an area where it is too high, that it should have been lower and it needs to be lowered, or was it done correctly? And in this area, it is just an extremely shallow area. We are building these reefs back up. They're going to have more material than what has been present over the last few decades, but this is an area that where it was done correctly. It's just a site that is already shallow, received some material. Whether it's we need to take action or this is an area that is just shallow that receives the proper amount of material, we'll provide word one way or the other once we know. But some of the areas that we did see, some of the photos we've seen, are areas where we have taken action, where it was like the size of a tabletop. You would see the photo, you would see rock, and then you would see no rock. So these are very small areas in an extremely large restoration area.
Yeah, one other question.
You go
Vice
ahead.
Chair?
No, you're on a roll. Go ahead.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. The numbers, when's the last time y'all got any updated data on what we got going on with the restoration? I know when we, at the last partnership meeting, we were talking about, potentially a cutoff limit if and when we open up. Mm-hmm. And we were kind of concerned about on what data we were actually going to use. We're going to use data from a year ago. And obviously where you're going now with this direction, do y'all have new updated numbers to show that, the restoration's lacking here, right? I mean, where's the justification? You see where I'm going?
Absolutely, yeah. So we want to make sure that we're using the most up-to-date data in informing our decision-making moving forward. And like I mentioned at the last partnership meeting, we will have more updated data to plug in to our efforts. I know our researchers have been out in the bay when there's water in the bay. They do have a temperature cutoff. So I'm assuming right now they're probably not out there, but I have talked with our lab manager there that they've been focusing efforts on the restoration area. So I don't have numbers. I know they do. I don't have them in front of me, but what they have been seeing are promising. I talked with a fellow researcher who has also talked with our research people, and he said, yeah, I'm hearing great things that we're seeing right there. So I'm being cautiously optimistic. But if the researchers who are out in the bay all the time, they've seen pasture restoration work or not work, if they're happy about this, I'm happy about it.
Well, I'm trying to figure out why the shift to the experimental study, versus, say, a limited entry opening.
Yeah, it's not only using the most recent data, but it's looking at data from the 80s just to see the ebbs and flows, because like you mentioned, there are off years and there are on years, but we have not seen an on year since 2013 when we first saw that collapse. So it's been over 10 years of pretty lean monitoring years. So we're using all the data we have to plug into it, but everything that we are showing that if what we are seeing out in the bay right now, if we opened it up to wild harvest with no additional management factors or regulations put in place, it would not take long to have all the progress we have seen collapse again.
Then when you say additional regulation, are you referring to like shelling, put material back out after the oysters are taken off? I mean, can you go into a little in depth with that for my fellow commissioners? That way we can wrap our heads around all this.
Yeah, the additional regulations, I was just meaning in terms of the experimental fishery.
Well, I'm just saying if you did do a limited entry grand opening, let's just use that model for a moment, and say you say, okay, once you get to 25% of the oyster population remaining on the bar, you're going to cut it off. So in other words, you can catch 75% of whatever that bar has, and then you got to leave 25%, and y'all shut it down. Why wouldn't that be conducive with what you're trying to do? Is that because we don't have a management plan in place or whatnot to put more material out? Because it's going to, that's basically what you're going to be looking at in the long run. You're not going to be able to go, this is the FWC's baby now. You guys are going to have to figure out some way of, putting a shelling program in, replenishing or whatever. whether that be concrete, whether that be, I don't know how we're going to do it with oyster shells, but I don't understand what I'm trying to figure out how to put this question that way, you know. What's the justification, I guess, wanting to go the experimental study route versus a limited entry grand opening route?
Yeah, and it is just to get additional information on how the bars react to harvest. So all the data that our research team has been gathering, it's missing a component, and that's harvest pressure. How much is going to be taken? So by allowing some type of harvest with an experimental fishery, we can really gather information on how platform reacts to X number of harvesters. You put 50 people out on platform, oysters looked like this, now they look like this. That's valuable information that we can then take over the entire bay. So this is just to gather information on how harvest, controlled harvest, like Erica mentioned, knowing when they went out, how many licks they've done for X number of oysters. That's just valuable information to be able to plug in on how the bay would respond to a fishery.
Mr. Chairman, I got a question.
Yep.
And I don't know if, well, I guess you would know this. Has any of the FWC commissioners, I guess 5 of them, I just looked them up, have any of them been here to actually look, bird's eye view, boots on the ground, seen the efforts that you guys have put forth?
Yes.
Have anybody come down? They have?
Yes.
Okay.
So I can speak to the last event in, I want to say spring or summer of last year. We had Commissioner Ferrier come out with a lot of our FWC Executive Director office. Our Executive Director came as well, Chief of Staff. A lot of folks came to understand this information and kind of see where we're at, what we're doing about it, and moving forward. And in addition, we've also had Representative Schoaf, Senator Simon out on the water to provide them updates, and NIFWIF, our funding partner for the $17 million agreement, they've been out on the water as well. So we're making sure that everyone is informed every step of the way.
Thank you.
I just got an informational question. Is there anybody on the FWC Commission that has any experience or history or background with the commercial fishery?
No.
Not a one.
I can answer that question.
Figured that.
I've
Well, I mean, I
researched it.
hadn't researched them, but I
have.
was just curious about it. That's a hell of a note, ain't it? Who's that?
Maury.
Commissioner
Nolan
Maury. Where's he from, John? South Florida. What part of South Florida?
I think he's, yeah.
Cattle farmer? Yeah, got it. I was just curious. That's all.
Mr. Chairman, can I
Yes.
ask one more question, and then I'll be quiet? And you may not can answer this, Devin, but I'll ask the question. When it comes down to the licensing, I know before when we had the oysters and they were harvested and all that, you had DAX, Department of Ag, doing the programs like the shelling and issuing the license and stuff, and you had FWC being the enforcement arm. Are y'all gonna try to incorporate somebody like Department of Ag or DAX to help y'all with the licensing, or y'all gonna do the whole shebang and then enforce it too?
Yeah, I think that's something where with management of Appalachia, we're really looking at all matters of that. We're in constant communication with DAX, with DEP, et cetera, on moving forward with this. So yeah, that's certainly something that we're going to discuss.
So y'all are basically taking over the oyster production and management in the state of Florida.
So DAX still plays a very important role in the fishery, and they will continue to do so.
They're basically, their role will come from the safety or consumption safety side of it, more so than the regulation side, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So currently, other places in the state that still have wild-caught oysters, who do they receive their permit through?
So they receive a saltwater product license through us,
Okay.
and then they do have to receive it's a license, bivalve endorsement.
Okay.
And so, and we're looking at statewide measures as well. And we're talking with our Office of Licensing and Permitting to make sure that everyone is updated and heard moving forward for not only the management of Appalachia, but for the state.
It's been a while since I've been involved in the industry, but used to you had to have a license to harvest and you had to have restricted species to be able to sell. With all this time period in between, how's that going to look? Because I know it used to be anyway, with restricted species, I had to show that I had so many $1,000s worth of stuff the year previous. How's that going to work out?
So currently, oysters are not on the restricted species list. Yeah, so I'm not sure how that would.
So you think they'll stay off the list?
That I'm not sure. We're looking.
The bay's been closed for 5 years and looks like it's going to be longer, but anyway.
Yeah, and that's something that we're also looking into. No decision has been made, but I will say that we are cognizant and we're aware that if that did occur, that there would be a little bit of a pickle for harvesters here in Apalachicola. We're aware of that, and we'll certainly address that if it needs to be addressed.
So the only other thing I'll say about the stuff to do with the bay, and I've expressed it to you and Mr. Creamer and Miss Erica before, Franklin County right now is 92% tourism-based economy. We need that bay open. We need diversification of our economy. We are a small county. We will always be a small county. The state owns over 90% of our property. We don't have an ability to be a bigger county. So anything we can do to help ourselves, we need your help.
Absolutely.
We need to diversify our economy again. We need seafood back.
Yes, sir. All right. Thank you, Commissioners.
Yes, sir. Any other questions for Mr. Devon? And thank you for being patient with us today. Again, I do want to reiterate, if we come across any way it's not about you or anybody in the room, we are the voice of the people.
Absolutely. We all have the same goal.
They speak often, they speak loud.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thank you. We talk about trash.
Sir, talk about some trash cans? Yeah. Actually, as you're coming, I do want to segue and ask a question. Mr. John, is there anything we can do about this duck hunting that people are doing on the edge of St. George Island?
Well, we can talk about that. I mean, again, Hunting and Game Management regulates the rules and regulations for hunting. And when it comes to duck hunting, that usually is a local county, city, municipality, what they call them restricted hunting areas, RHAs. The people to speak to about that, I can get you in touch with them. I can have Michael, and they can come down and talk with them.
But do they have restrictions on how much they can hunt close to where somebody lives?
Again, duck hunting is a very unique sport, and with waterway access, yes, they can pretty much hunt. We have a lot of conflict over in the Western Panhandle around Escambia County at the Alabama line. There's high rises there.
Yeah.
Legally, they're allowed to hunt the waterway as long as they're discharging the weapon in a proper way. I understand what's going on there, but there are some options the county can look into. Again, with our hunting game management.
That's what we need to find out.
Okay. Yeah, we can put you in touch with the right folks.
All right.
Again, just a quick update. You know, we did receive the funding that the county requested, the $683,000 for trash cans. We're working on the agreement now. I think we'll have a draft here in the next week. I was hoping to have it with me today. But basically, talking with Michael and Mr. Jones, with you as well, the way it would work is the county would put in the request for the cans with whatever vendor they work out to be, and then we would pay for that. So whatever agreement you enter into going forward with your waste provider, you would be the requesting entity, we would be the paying entity. Unfortunately, the way the statute's set up and the allocation that came to us and dynamics of the legislature, I do not understand. We just can't cut you a check and give it over. So.
Well, I hope it doesn't hurt your feelings, but we're asking for the other half this year.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to ask that they send it to us directly and not send it through you. I hope that doesn't hurt your feelings.
We would love to see that happen.
And again, that's what we're going to ask for. Whether we get it or not, we'll find out.
And again, I think, you know, going forward, we have some folks that are familiar with the rule language or requesting legislative appropriation that we can give you some language that would help that happen as well.
Okay.
But again, when you get ready to do whatever action you want to do with your service providers, let us know. Again, we're under that time crunch of June 30th. We can probably do, a request to extend to sometime into September. But, again, we want to get that in place and get it going and purchased as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Just on the other note, I did want to update the commission. I don't know if you watched the December commission meeting in Lakeland, but the commissioners did ask the commission to come back with a proposed suite of options for a bear hunt. So in May, we will bring that back to the commissioners on what that might look like. method of take, amount, areas. If they choose to bring that forward, it would probably be in August before the final decision was made.
Okay. Will that actually be on the agenda in February, or will it be a sole agenda item?
No, sir. When they ask for it in December, we have to have some time to get together with the groups that handle the rulemaking to determine what that may look like. So again, that would be May before it comes back.
Okay, so let me ask a different question. Maybe I didn't ask it the right way. If one of us were to attend the meeting, or any of us were to attend the meeting in February and asked to speak under public comment, would we be able to comment on that possibility?
In February, if you want to talk about it on items not on the agenda, you're more than welcome to.
Okay, that's
And then
what
when
I'm
it comes up, and there'll be, and I would encourage, you know, again, we've had this conversation in this room about this topic on multiple occasions. Come May, and then if it's picked up in August, I would encourage you to attend there because there will be public comment on the rulemaking.
That's what I wanted to clarify and make sure. Okay.
Okay? All right.
Anyone else have any questions for Mr. John? We held Devin up here for about an hour, so you can't let John go in 5 minutes.
Well, Devin does a good job.
Thank
Much
you,
more
sir.
thorough. And we'll get you the information on the commission meeting dates. I'll send that to you
Okay.
as well.
Thank you so much. All right, Mr. Rowan, let's take about a 5-minute break before we come back to our agenda. Franklin County Board of County Commissioners now back in session.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If you would, I would recommend, can we accept the TDC report under consent? I think there's only a couple items left because Aaron might have addressed a couple of those. Then we can go to our planning and zoning report. There's only 2 items there, but our building official needs to go do some inspections on the opposite end of the county. Then we could address Attorney Schuler's report, and then we have the Dingmans with the CDBG update.
Okay, so on TDC, only item 3 has already been covered. And again, all these items were things that the board recommended to the TDC to look at and send back to us. Item 1 would be adding 2 more sets of bleachers for a total of 5 at D.W. Wilson Sports Park. And then $6,500 of the infrastructure grant program for the SCI Lighthouse Museum to cover some repairs to the Keeper's House Museum decking and stairs. So those are the 2 items in the TDC consent. Pleasure of the board.
Go ahead and approve it.
All right, we have a motion to approve.
I second.
By Commissioner Sanders, second by Commissioner Amison. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. All right, Mr. Steve.
All right, I have a variance request and special exception for 178 Highway 65. It's a consideration of a request to construct and operate a 255-foot self-support wireless tower with a 75 by 75 fenced lease area and supporting ground-mounted radio equipment to be located at 178 Highway 65, East Point, Florida, Franklin County. Variance request is to construct 208 feet above Franklin County's maximum build height of 47 feet. Request submitted by Harmony Towers Asset Company, Justin Anderson, agent for Butler's Hauling, LLC, Timmy Butler, applicant.
Is this a cell tower?
It's a cell tower.
Okay.
It's going to replace the one behind the school.
Okay. And it also, during the P&Z meeting, what was the vote on that? Do you remember?
5-0.
5-0 approval?
Mr. Anderson is online, Mr. Chairman, in case you have any questions.
All right.
And Commissioner Ward, actually, someone from the audience at the P&Z member, there he is, the guilty party, asked about the Highway 65 coverage. So Mr. Anderson is well prepared to answer that question today, this morning. Yes.
Any questions, commissioners?
Just what, Mr. Chairman, what Michael Marone just stated.
Okay, so you want to ask Mr. Anderson to answer about that?
Yes, Mr. Anderson, hey, this is Commissioner Ward. First of all, I want to thank you guys because I've been fighting since I've been on this board to get better cell coverage up Highway 65 because we do have a lot of people that go, visitors and residents alike, that travel that road a lot. Can you let us know, I know this tower's more relatively towards closer to 98 in the research that I've done. How much service is this going to provide for Highway 65?
Thanks again for all of your time this morning. I appreciate it. Some pretty interesting information regarding the waterways up there this morning. So last Thursday, we had a pretty short discussion about the overall tower design, location, and such. But as you pointed out, Commissioner Ward, this is one of our main question was how far north will it go along Highway 65? And we did talk with our RF team. The long and short of that answer is it's going to roughly cover about 4.7 miles to the north. Now, 0.7, I don't know if that's, that's a pretty specific amount. I would add that once you go north and around, the bends that go west, there is another tower up there. It's roughly 225 feet. It's owned by another tower company called American Tower, ATC. So there is a co-locatable opportunity up there, as we know right now. So our goal, if you will, think of a wireless network like a honeycomb. The idea is to always touch the next comb, but never to overlap. That just creates inefficiency. So our goal is to make it up to hopefully where that tower sits and we can use that one. Part of our application was we actually did look at using the Verizon tower behind the high school Unfortunately, it failed structurally by a very significant amount. So that is why you have the application for this specific site along Highway 65 on Butler Hauling's property. We feel that this will bring a new modern tower opportunity to this area. Our anchor tenant is AT&T. By no means does that mean that only AT&T will use it. As per your code, I believe, if I recall, and just as a general protocol for any tower company, the goal is to have as many tenants on it as you can. The three big wireless carriers don't build their own towers anymore. They always hire built-to-suit tower companies. So Harmony Towers is one of those companies. I have many projects with them spanning throughout the Southeast. So I'll stop talking now and just leave it at your answer should be roughly 4.5 miles or so to the north.
Okay. I know they don't sound like a lot, and I appreciate your answer, but honestly, in my opinion, I feel like if we can co-locate and add to it, I feel like that it will benefit our residents and visitors alike. So thank you for your time. And I don't know, I'd like to share my contact info with you, and if you can send Mr. Marone an email, maybe reach out to me, and if you don't mind, I'd like to talk to you about how we can maybe, I'll help out any which way I can, because I feel like we definitely need more coverage in our county, especially up that Highway 65. So I appreciate you guys kind of starting this process. So with that, I will go ahead and recommend approval for this.
And we have a motion to approve this variance to build this cell tower by Commissioner Ward. And we have a second from Commissioner. Go ahead.
Just for clarification, so the Verizon tower behind the school will remain operable, correct?
But it's not in the best of shape, I think, is what he was saying. Is that correct?
Yeah, so Verizon is on that tower. They are your tenant, I believe, or the school district's tenant. Let me look at a quick layer on my map. I can tell you if they still own that tower or if they maybe assigned it. Is it going to show up? There we go. So Verizon still does own the tower behind the school. So they are the tenant on that tower. But that site failed structurally by 145%. So that was one of the reasons why AT&T didn't want to go on that existing tower. With the spirit of trying to co-locate when we can, we obviously had those conversations with Verizon. The cost of bringing that tower up to speed structurally was a pretty vast number given comparison to what we can build. Not only a new tower, but a new tower in, frankly, a better location.
That's your question.
So Verizon will remain right there, correct? For right now?
Verizon will remain right there. This tower, our anchor tenant is AT&T. It'll obviously be immediately marketed, if not having already, to T-Mobile. I know Dish Network is also looking to put up new sites. And Verizon may see that it is financially unfeasible for them. If they may want to remove that tower and come over to this tower. I can't speak for them. They aren't my client, as it were, for this search ring.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
But Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
to elaborate on that, Mr. Anderson, is that his name?
Yes.
The just because this tower is AT&T, it still can service other cell phone providers, correct?
Yes. This tower is owned by Harmony Towers. The underlying ground lessor is Butler Hauling, or Mr. Tim Butler. And then AT&T is simply a tenant. They have no control over who can or cannot co-locate on the tower. So this tower is, as we say, open for business as far as co-location goes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Chairman, I know we have to make two motions. So my motion is to recommend approval of the special exception request.
We have, did we?
Yeah, we've already got a motion on the floor, so you're amending your motion?
Well, I thought, well, I know we have to do it in two different motions. I can't make them in both. Can I make them in one motion?
The two, I would rather separate motions, one for the variance, which is, had a motion, and the second, I don't think a vote, and then the second motion would be to approve the special exception.
All right.
You could do both.
So we did already have a motion second for the variance. Commissioner Ward made the motion, Commissioner Croom made the second, correct?
Sorry to jump in there.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
So this project, this is part of their due diligence for I guess building the cell phone tower. The special exception, they're looking for a 3-year period in terms of determining if they can build a cell phone tower. They still have some additional research that they have to do.
Okay.
And so with that 3-year period, that goes beyond the time limit of a variance typically. So the board does have the option to extend that period up to, whatever the board determines is an appropriate amount of time. You could go 8 months, you could go 18 months, or you could go the full 3 years.
If it would please the commissioners, I can kind of explain why we ask for that 3-year due diligence period. And I think earlier on in the meeting, I heard some chuckles when it came to the idea of nailing down a time frame with the federal government. So when we build a new tower, we not only have our local zoning, permitting, highway permits if we're putting in a new entrance, so on and so forth. We also have state and federal. So local and state, we can sort of guess how long those are going to take. Federal is your guess as good as mine. Sometimes we get really quick approvals. Sometimes we get really long ones. It's by no means our goal to take 3 years. Our goal is to get this site up and running as quickly as possible, but we can't do that until we have all of our things in place. We've already filed with the FAA. We've already received that approval, but we still have SHPO through the state, NEPA, we have geo studies, all kinds of other things. Hopefully nobody goes out there and digs up an arrowhead or pottery. That creates a whole issue. Migration, bird migration, all of those things. And so understanding typically special exceptions and in this case variances have a shorter time frame than that. We just can't assure that we can start construction until we have all those items in place.
All right, thank you, Mr. Anderson. So does the board want to consider, specifically Commissioner Ward, do you want to consider amending your variance request to the 3-year time period? Would that be appropriate, Attorney Schuler?
That would be entirely up to the board. Your current policy is that, especially, and the reason we had this conversation at the P&Z meeting,
yes,
because I want to make sure that the applicant understood that these variances and special exceptions essentially have a 1-year time period and they expire if they have not commenced construction. Yep. And so that's the reason we're having this conversation right now. Right. I did have a conversation with your planner after the meeting. There was a suggestion of an 18-month period with a requirement that they come back and show that they've been making some progress and not just letting the field go fallow, so to speak, and then giving them another 18 months if they need it. But you also have the discretion just to give them 3 years on this if you choose to. That's entirely up to the board.
Okay, I'm fine with the 18 months. There's no sense in granting it for a year because they're probably not going to get it done in a year. Is the only thing I'm trying to say. From the sound of it, we've dealt enough with the federal government to say that you don't know when it's going to happen. And we're waiting right now on the EOC and have been for quite a while. So,
Mr. Chairman, just so that I'm clarifying my motion, and Justin, feel free to pipe in. Not
Justin Steele.
Yeah, I need to make not Mr. Anderson, Justin, but our county planner, Justin. So, and Attorney Schuler, right now, as it stands on the way our current ordinance states, it has to be 18 months.
No, 1 year.
1 year. Okay.
1 year.
Okay.
To commence, that means you break ground, so to speak.
Okay.
If you had, for example, there was a cell tower approved up on Highway 65 that where was it? Fort Gadsden Creek,
Yep.
Probably 7 years ago.
It's been a while.
Nothing ever happened. Guess what? Those have long since expired.
Yep.
So I don't know if it was a regulatory reason they never proceeded, or what. I don't know the cause why they never commenced construction. But since Mr. Alexander had mentioned a 3-year period, we wanted to make sure he knew about our 1-year time period, and then bring that issue back to the board. And Justin Steele, the planner, may or may not want to chime in, but to flesh out what I just said. But he and I did discuss the issue of extending the time period for the variance. 18 months was part of the discussion, just as a motivator to get them to come back and show that they've actually been applying for all these permits they're telling us that they need. Or you could go ahead and do the 3-year period as well. I mean, it's not like there's people, beating down the door to put in cell towers, but in any event.
Mr. Chairman, Justin Steele, I don't want to put you on the spot, but what would be your recommendation? I know and understand that a 3-year period is being requested, and I know, as we know with federal government, everything, it does take a while. What is your recommendation?
Recommendation would be that the applicant provide proof within 18 months of all the applications being submitted, and allow for staff to provide a 18-month extension on that.
Okay. With that, I'll make a motion to recommend approval of special, I'm going to amend my motion to give them 18 months.
Okay. Like Mr. Steele has just laid out.
Correct.
So with 18 months, they can show proof of action that they've been receiving permits, and staff can then extend it for another 18 months.
Correct.
All right. Do you amend your second, sir?
Amend my second.
All right. Any other discussion before we vote on this variance request? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Now we need to take up the matter of the special exception.
Mr. Chairman, I will also make a motion to approve the 18 months for the variance request.
All right.
Special exception.
Special exception.
Oh, special exception. I thought I'm looking at the wrong report.
You're good.
Looking at 2 different reports.
All right, so we do have a motion to approve the special exception with the same parameters as we did the variance request.
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Croom. Any discussion before we vote, Commissioners? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous. Mr. Steve, thank you, Mr. Justin, and actually,
thanks,
Mr.
everyone.
Justin and Mr. Justin, we appreciate it. Go ahead, Mr.
This is
Steve,
for
item
a
11.
commercial site plan review, 25 Island Drive, a consideration of a request to construct a 2,340 square foot storage building for personal effects to be located inside a locked fenced area with no public access, located at 25 Island Drive, East Point, Florida, Franklin County. Request submitted by Michael and Dorothy Thornburg, applicants, property owners.
All right. And Mr. Thornburg is here today, Commissioners, if you have any questions for him. I've already spoken with him, kind of give him a hard time about it, but I do support his request. But he is here if y'all want to ask him any questions.
Mr. Chairman, staff recommends approval, and it was a unanimous vote by the P&Z board to approve this.
Yes, it was.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, so motion to approve by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Amison. Any other discussion, Commissioners? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous. All right, now we're going back to Attorney Schuler's report, correct?
Mr. Chairman, just before we move on, this kind of segues into Attorney Schuler's report. During the break, I was discussing, I know as a commissioner, I get a lot of phone calls. I know you guys get a lot of phone calls about dilapidated buildings, dilapidated homes, especially after a storm or a natural disaster. It's never good to have your home destroyed, but we have a lot of them in our area that may not be aesthetically appeasing. They may not be structurally sound. So I was discussing with them about a way moving forward. I know that in the past, we've gotten a code enforcement complaint. Our code enforcement officer would go out, Steve would go out, see if it was structurally sound, if not, or if it was an environmental thing. If it wasn't, then we would proceed with potential contacting the homeowner and trying to get it remediated. I'm just again, I always try to think proactively, not reactively. And I feel like moving forward, it might be something that we as a board might need to address because, you know, we get hurricanes and God forbid we get natural disasters. And I know there's a lot of dilapidated homes in my district. I just want to know, I guess, and I know we don't have an ordinance, so I guess what I'm trying to say is the process that we do it, is there a certain parameter? We just have to get the code enforcement complaint, and then what if say it is structurally sound, it's just the house that's there and falling down, there's nothing, I guess it'd be up to the property owner at that point, because I don't want to impede on anybody's property rights either. But I know every circumstance is different, and I don't want to put y'all on the spot, but I just wanted to kind of throw that out there.
Yes, ma'am. It's not as clear cut as you might think when people call and complain, because you do have these interactions of the private property rights and grandfathering rights to certain structures that we've dealt with this in the past many years ago, probably, it's probably 2010 or so, something like that, 2009. Over in East Point, there was a drive to try and remove the dilapidated buildings, and the concern with that is, sometimes they have grandfathering rights, to where their pilings are. And if we go in there as a county and take that away from them, then what you're going to end up with is a countersuit that says, well, you've now taken my property without just compensation, and I'm going to sue you for that amount. Now, if we limit to what we're doing as we're doing now, which is essentially when the board gets an issue like we had shortly after you were elected over at Yellow Hill, we had that storm damaged house. The board directed me to investigate that, determine whether it was a public nuisance and a safety hazard or not. I sent the building official out there to do an inspection and a report, and he came back and provided a factual basis for the litigation. It was a public nuisance. It was a safety hazard. Ultimately, that property was cleared because of the litigation, but it was also a settlement agreement between the property owner's representative and the county, and they eventually cleaned it up. There was another instance over on the island where there were complaints about a building that's got, I believe it's got a hole in the roof or something over there. So we went through the same process. The building official reported back that there was not a factual basis for a public nuisance or a public safety hazard, so no action was taken. That's the process that's currently in place. It is a balance between public interest and private property rights. But if y'all want us to look at that further, see what other counties are doing, as I had mentioned to you during the break, maybe there's a more limited remedy that could be, I guess, thought about, which is, perhaps an ordinance that says, you at least have to make your roof watertight and your walls structurally sound, and the doors and window openings sealed, just so that you don't, attract vermin and things of that nature. So there might be a public health safety issue that we could look at. But if y'all direct myself and Steve to look into that, we will. And my first action would be to reach out to one of Mike's staff, Ms. Courtney Bankston, and have her talk to other communities and see what they have in place. I mean, why recreate the wheel if you don't have to?
I think that, Mr. Chairman, I think that would be a good idea. If anything, if you come back and say, well, this is how the other county does it, and this is what they found or what they've had issues with, I don't think it's going to hurt.
No, it's not going to hurt.
Because as many natural disasters as we have, I mean, I just feel like moving forward it might be something we need, because I know there's one on the island. I know there's several in my district.
2 or 3 on that one.
And I know that they may be okay structurally, but over the course of time, it's still going to get rained. It's still going to get damaged. If it's already damaged, it's probably going to be more likely to get more damaged in future storms or anything. And vermin and, vagrants, I guess. So I think it would definitely, in my opinion, be a benefit to try to figure it out, try to see what moving forward we can maybe look at, if it's not too much to ask.
No, I think it would be great too, Commissioner. So Attorney Schuler and Steve, what about as we're looking at this, what do other counties do? Because we have a 50% rule for homes that are destroyed more than 50%, they're not able to rebuild or redo. So is that something we might need to look at in conjunction with what we're talking about? You know what I mean?
The 50% rule is a FEMA requirement. I
Right.
mean, that's a FEMA requirement.
Right.
So,
But if they can't build it back,
right.
then why are we just gonna allow it to just sit there, or allow the property owner to allow it to sit there?
And we do have a lot, I know Alligator Point, we have a lot of homes there that are in very bad condition, but they're in a battle with their insurance company.
Yeah.
Still.
Oh, yeah.
From Hurricane Michael, so
Yes.
you're talking 7 years that they're still
Yeah, that's crazy.
So sad. Very
tied up with
sad.
their insurance company, and we do,
Yeah, okay.
we're trying to help the people of the county. I know that,
Right.
the neighbors are mad, but if it's your property, you're
Yeah.
gonna be.
Oh, no, I'm fine
And
with
they
that
are
as long
still
as there's
assessed,
discussion.
our property appraiser does assess those homes
Yeah.
and structures on those properties, and so the county is receiving tax money for it. It is at a reduced rate, but they are getting more than a vacant lot.
Whereas if it's torn down, that's money.
Just a
going
vacant
in.
lot, so.
I mean, I see both sides, but I feel like I said, and unfortunately, the LA fires kind of brought it up too. I'm thinking, what do these people do if they don't want to build? I again, proactive versus reactive. That was my thought. So I hate it for those people out there, but
No, I think it'd be a good discussion to have. So at least we can kind of really know as a board what actions we've taken to even consider something such as that. So,
thank y'all.
no problem. Turner Schuler, we're up to you, sir.
Okay, let me make a note real quick.
All right,
Courtney, that's my note.
there you go.
Okay. Item number 1 is the final agreed upon draft for the contract between Franklin County and the St. James Lanark Village Fire District. You've got the draft agreement there. I deliberately gave you the red line so you could see sort of the back and forth between myself and the fire chief, Mr. Harry Larson, and also their secretary, otherwise known as the real boss, Ms. Deborah Howells. And this, what's in front of you now, is the final draft version. I spoke to Harry this morning by phone. I was expecting him to be in attendance. Unfortunately, he's had things come up. He can't be here. I know Ms. Deborah is on the Zoom call, so if she wants to say anything, she just needs to raise her hand and can be recognized. But I did speak to Mr. Harry, and he said he's fine with us moving forward in his absence. So unless the board has any questions for me, or if Ms. Deborah has anything that she wants to say, then board discussion and then possible board action.
All right. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Attorney Schuler about this?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if he can answer, but this will help with people's ISO ratings in the area, correct?
I do not know the answer to that.
I wouldn't say it would hurt.
With the fire department up and running, it will be able to get a better ISO rating.
I would like to ask Mr. Harry when, call him later on, Commissioner, to see if they have to be certified by the state to help with ISO, or just up and running to help with the ISO. That's a distinction I would want to find out. But I will. Let me make a note. I'll do that.
We got Miss Deborah Howe
Certainly
on
not
there.
gonna
She's
hurt.
our secretary there. She can have information that tells you.
Open up with Miss Deborah.
And see if she has any knowledge.
She unmuted, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Miss Deborah?
Good morning, everyone. First, I would like to just express appreciation to Attorney Schuler for working so cooperatively and helpfully with us through the contract process, and voice how much we really appreciate the entire commission's support as we have worked to rebuild the fire department. On the ISO rating, while I am not an expert on that by any means, I would say that just the signing of the contract will not give us a better rating, but it puts us in a position to be able to apply and gives us the funding that will enable us to get the equipment and other items into place so that we can, our goal is definitely to get a good ISO rating for our community and thereby help bring down the cost of the insurance premiums that our residents and businesses are paying. So, but it would be a process of applying for an ISO review and a rating. That would be an additional step to come afterwards, but the contract would put us on in a better position and solid footing to move forward with those other steps. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Chairman.
No problem. Anyone else have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. It says in the contract that the department will submit audited financial statements to the county. Who will be responsible for those audits, and what entity will be doing the audit?
The fire department will pay for it, and they will pay for it out of their MSBU funds, and provide that audit report to the county. That's my understanding of how it will work.
And it'll go to Aaron.
Any other questions?
I'm ready to make a motion.
I just got one question, just a catch-up question for me. But is this are we under contract with the other fire departments?
No,
this is the first.
This is a first and only, and was brought up for discussion as a possibility necessitated by the collapse of the St. James Lanark Fire Department. There were lots of generational issues and structural changes that had taken place, and unfortunately, it just collapsed. And we have not had a similar issue or problems with the other departments that I'm aware of.
All right, any other questions? Pleasure of the board.
I make a motion that we approve, and I've got a comment.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Sanders.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Ward. Commissioner Sanders, go ahead.
My comment is, I felt like with the downfall of the fire department, that it needed to have some kind of financial oversight just to make sure that it was up and running, and that would never happen again. That's the reason why I wanted something like that. And I think we've got it down to where everybody agrees to it, to what they're supposed to, the parameters they have to follow and everything, because they do receive county MSBU money. But anyway, that's my comment. That's all I had to say.
All right. Any other discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is a 5-0 vote.
All right, Commissioner, the second action item for discussion and possible action by the board is the PUD, I should have called it the evaluation ordinance. I understand that y'all have received some, I guess, email comments about some language in the draft about the height restriction at 60 feet, so I just want to address that. You probably have other comments, but I was actually.
But I also have a lot of public comments on this matter too, just so you know.
Yes, just if I may, Mr. Chairman, very briefly. Just wanted to explain to the board and the public, my rationale with attaching the draft version that's on the report now. That was the draft that was submitted to the planning and zoning. Y'all haven't seen that yet. Y'all haven't received it officially. So I wanted to make sure that y'all received an official copy of that draft version. Believe me, there was lots of discussion at the P&Z meeting on two issues. One is the 60-foot requirement.
Mm-hmm.
Just she misunderstood. She thought the height restriction in Franklin County was 60 feet. It was discussed at the meeting. No, it's going to be 47. The final version, once it's ever, if the board schedules it for a final hearing, it's going to be 47. And then the other issue that came up is we've been referring to this as a PUD, planned unit development, but there was a change in the terminology, and there was some perception that maybe the change in the terminology from PUD to another acronym was, trying to create some other new development right. Like, no, it's not a substantive change, it's just a terminology change. So with that, Mr. Chairman, the only thing I'm asking right now is the Planning and Zoning Commission has completed the 3 workshops that they were assigned to conduct. So the procedural question that I'm asking the board today is, how do you want to proceed from that point? I'm thinking if you choose to proceed, the right way to go is have a workshop, because this board for the last couple of years on big issues, you've wanted to have a workshop on big issue ordinances so y'all can sort of hash everything out together, get it in its final form, and then have that advertised in the newspaper with the proper waiting period so everybody sees that final version for 10 days as opposed to being in that final public hearing without a workshop and you're trying to cut and paste and come up with a final version. So that's the reason I'm suggesting workshop and public hearing. So with that, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much.
No problem. I just have one question, then we'll do the public comments. So my concern has been to make sure that the public has at least 2 more times to talk to the board about this before we ever take action. So it's my understanding from talking to you that the board would only be required to have 1 public hearing, not 2. So that's what I mentioned to you about, okay, we probably need to have a workshop with the board because we haven't looked at it yet, and then we can have a public hearing. So that's all we're really discussing today.
Right.
Was how many times we're going to do it, what the board wants to do. But before I get too far down the rabbit hole, I want to go ahead and do this public comments. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Ms. Marianne Fisher, I'm just taking them as the order they appeared. And I had 2 for you, but you only had 1, right?
Yeah, I'm only one.
All right. Go ahead, Ms. Fisher. State your name for the record. You have 5 minutes.
Okay. My name is Marianne Fisher, and I live in Carabel, Florida, and I have attended the Planning and Zoning Board meetings on the PUD issue, or if you want to call it the PDD issue, and I am opposed to it. I think that if you look at it long range, you're taking an area that doesn't, and you're overriding the current zoning. So you can put these in residential areas, not just commercial areas. The acreage allotted for it, the minimum was 5. That's not enough. Once you put in something like this, you're going to affect your fire, your police force, your sheriff, the school system. So you're going to end up spending a lot more money than what you think this is going to bring into the town. Outside developers come in, they're going to promise you something, and then, we don't have any control over the development. So I don't see how it's going to benefit. We've already excluded it from St. George Island and Dog Island, but what about Carabel and East Point? I live in Carabel. Could easily be put in some place like that, and I don't see how it's going to help the town, help the citizens, help the kids that grow up here to have a decent job. Instead of focusing on that, how about if we focus on jobs and improving the school system, not with money, figuring out what the curriculum is in there so that the children that graduate from the school actually have a decent outlook. So that's why I'm opposed. I don't see how it's going to help. You've got environmental issues. You have the water. There are areas that are developed now where people have less water pressure in Wakulla County. We know that Panama City, if you look at their budget, they've very much developed Panama City. They're having budget issues. We already have issues with figuring out how to pay for everything here. And you're looking for grants, you're looking for state money, federal money to, for your fire department and so forth. I don't see how it's going to help. The county already had an ordinance against PUDs, and now this comes up. My question is, why has it come up? And if you are representing us, we've elected you, all of you, to represent us. I've never met one person that was for the PUD. Why do we how many meetings do we have to have? I've never, if you can name one person that said this was a good idea, that's one against how many that have come forward and said, no, we're not interested in this in our county.
Is that all you have?
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Frank Pearsall?
Thank y'all. I appreciate Frank Pearsall, 170 19th Avenue, Appalach. Appreciate all your hard work for the county and their residents. I'm very happy to hear, if I understood that correctly, it will not be a 60-foot height. It'll be a 47-foot height. Is that correct?
May I address that, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Yes, the initial draft that was prepared by the outside planner, she did not understand that our height restriction is kind of special and different in Franklin County. So she thought it was 60. It's actually 47,
and that's not going to change. That is not scheduled, okay. So that's great to hear, but still, anything like this is going to increase density, and I don't know about the rest of the county, but in Appalachia, the services are already marginal in some cases, roads, water supply, whatever. Increasing density of population is probably going to be a net negative to the budget, not a positive. And it's going to be, the positive is going to be to individuals and the negative is going to be to the public at large with increased taxes. So I'm against that general effort. Plus, increasing density is certainly not going to enhance the character of Appalachia. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Julie Bissell? She not here?
What's the name?
She online?
I don't know.
I'm sorry, what's the name?
Julie Bissell?
Yeah,
I think I'm saying it right.
She
I'm
is
sorry.
online, right there. I'm sorry.
3583 is the phone number.
Yep, I do apologize.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, this is Julie Boisteau, live in Carabel. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I went to two of the P&Z workshops, and I listened to the December 10th recording of the workshop. I am firmly against PUDs in Franklin County. I was pleased to see that there will not be PUDs allowed in St. George Island and Dog Island, and I'm wondering what the criteria was for making that decision and why it doesn't apply to Carabel, East Point, and Apalachicola and Alligator Point, because I think we have similar circumstances in those areas as well. We also discussed with P&Z that the minimum acreage required to fill out a PUD application would be a minimum of 10 acres. And one of the gentlemen on P&Z said it should be 240 acres, which I agree with, because I am against high density. It is a proposal that unfortunately gets put into place by the UN Agenda 2030. It's the Live Local Act. It takes power away from the local levels and returns it to an unelected group, globalist group, and we don't want that. And I believe that the Live Local Act was included in part of this draft proposal. It's bad news. Fortunately, Trump has already got us out of the WF, and I hope he's going to get us out of the UN as well. So I hope that will be a moot point. I was curious about why there is such a lot of pressure to do a PUD. I've only been here since 2021. I know we had an ordinance in 2018 that outlawed PUDs. So why is there such a push now to get a PUD? There's a lot of PUDs around Franklin County. We own a property in one that's an absolute nightmare in Carabel. I'm sure that was granted approval before the 2018 ordinance was passed. So has something happened? And Deborah Parker asked a very interesting question at the December 10th meeting. She said, are we going to get sued if we don't have PUDs? And my question is, are we going to get sued if we don't have a PUD because we have promised a developer since the 2018 ordinance was passed that we would allow them to put in a PUD? Now, the county attorney explained that there are no suits on the board, but I'm just wondering, is that the absolute case? Because my understanding was there is a PUD that had been approved in East Point at the foot of the bridge over to St. George Island. And what is happening with that? If they've done the work on permitting and everything else, aren't they going to want to get their money's worth on that? And is that why we are pushing this PUD? My other understanding, and I could be wrong, so please feel free to correct me, is that we already have codes in place that allow us to do any type of development work that we want to do under planning and zoning. So why don't we just use those existing codes to do development instead of pushing through this PUD? And my final point is, who benefits from this? I don't believe it is the Franklin County taxpayers. I don't know what we're going to get out of it. So I really would like to understand further, who does this actually benefit? I'm totally against high density developments. I understand there's a need for affordable housing, but I think we need to let the capitalist system in our country take over to be able to provide those types of development. Thank you for letting me comment.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Ms. LaDonna Wagers? Is that online, or
Yep,
is that?
it looks that way, sir. Hold 1 second for me.
3965 is the phone number.
Yeah, I see a LaDonna here. Click on that. Ask her to unmute. Yep, she's unmuted, sir.
All right.
Okay, hi. Yes, this is LaDonna Wagers, 154 Sawyer Lane. I don't have any further comment, just a wave in opposition of this.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Paul Riggermeyer? Please come forward, state your name for the record. You have 5 minutes.
Afternoon, afternoon, commissioners. I've got some comments.
Shadow Lane. We're trying to figure out where Sawyer Lane is. We're trying to explain where Sawyer Lane and Appalachian is.
Yeah, they have their own ordinance.
It used to be an alley.
Yeah, that is exactly what it is.
Commissioners, I attended all of the PUD workshops, and the existing draft ordinance doesn't reflect the comments and thoughts of the people that I heard at these meetings. You've heard some of these things before. I'll go through these quickly. The draft says a minimum of 5 acres. You've heard, 10 acres to 40 acres is what the people would prefer. We've already talked about the 60-foot height limit. I won't go there. Changing the nomenclature from PUD to PDD raised some eyebrows. People want to know why that was done, and we were told as it's just a change in the nomenclature. But it it just got people were curious, and your consultant said, well, we can change it back. Wasn't changed back. And the consultant's lack of follow-through with the public's feedback being incorporated into the current draft PDD ordinance creates some distrust about the whole process. Based on the feedback of all 3 workshops, there was overwhelming opposition to creating a PUD-enabling ordinance. We've gotten along fine since 2018 without a PUD ordinance. I would recommend that today we stop pursuing this and stay with the current PUD ordinance that bans them in all of Franklin County. The discussion was that we could ban them on barrier islands. Well, since then I've talked to people that also want them banned in Alligator Point, Carabel, East Point, Appalach. We don't need another public workshop or public hearing. We could end this today and just say, thank you. We've learned something, and we'll just maintain our no PUD ordinance. If you decide to move forward with a public workshop or public hearing before doing so, please incorporate the public's feedback from the last 3 workshops and make corrections cited above prior to moving forward. And as Ms. Rousseau brought up, we don't really understand what the motivation is to create this PUD, PDD at this time. I think we're doing fine without it. And I hope y'all will consider this and look forward to hearing your decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. Ms. Diane Brew?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak. My name is Diane Brewer. I'm a resident of Apalachicola since 2014, and I have followed this issue closely since inception in 2018. My background is relevant because I've served on the Cities of Appalachia's Park Committee. I'm now on the Board of Adjustment, and I worked downtown for the past several years in a retail shop where I agree that the overwhelming visitors to Apalachicola are tourists. However, the overwhelming sentiment of those tourists is that they want Franklin County to stay exactly the way it is. They come here not for development. They come here because it has little development. They come for its natural beauty, fishing, and other things that don't involve development. This PUD should, the Serenity by the Sea is the one that got approved, notwithstanding the fact that there was an ordinance against it. None of you all, except for Mr. Jones, were on the commission at the time that Serenity by the Sea was approved and even subsequently amended. So at that time, over 90 people wrote or spoke against the PUD. I totally agree with Ms. Boisseau. Who is going to benefit from this? It is not going to be Franklin County or Franklin County residents. It's not going to attract anything that we don't already enjoy. So I hope you will end this agonizing process of trying to engineer an approval of something after the fact that was already not allowed when the Serenity by the Sea project was approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you. John Albert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is John Albert. I live at 246th Street in Apalachicola. Since the issue before the Commission is procedural rather than substantive, I'll confine my comments to that, with one exception. I strongly recommend that the Commission hold a workshop, at least one workshop further, and a hearing separately, because I think the issues before the Commission are profoundly important, and they're not just about land use, they're about the impact on the bay and the river of any potential high-density development, and it needs serious consideration. And there are a lot more opinions in the community than have shown up today. The Commission needs to hear them all. And I too will have substantive comments about both the draft and the necessity for any draft at all. So again, I urge you to have a workshop and at least one workshop and a hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Albert. All right. That concludes the public comments on that. So it's back to the board. I would like to, in a way of just trying to be transparent, offer maybe some understanding today. So nothing about this PUD discussion has anything to do with any particular project. There was a discussion about a potential project on St. George Island months ago when some of the members of the community brought up about the fact that there was no PUD enabling ordinance. That's what started this discussion. That slap on the hand, if you will. But I want to make sure everybody's informed and knows for sure, instead of just being pushed toward it. There have been 7 different PUD, either ordinances or amendments, passed since 2018. So to try to make this about Serenity is invalid, because that has nothing to do with Serenity. Serenity actually is moving forward their project. They've already given Eastport Water and Sewer $150,000 toward the infrastructure. I don't know why they're taking as long as they are, but again, this isn't about them. This is about the fact that this board, which has had many conversations in the past year and a half or 2 years of making sure that we follow what's written down, or that we redo what's written down. That's why we're having discussion about PUDs. Bear in mind, a PUD or a PDD actually gives the county greater flexibility when asking for and trying to go through with what someone's wanting to develop on their property. Because Commissioner Sanders, I wasn't here, but back when they were doing the PUD down at summer camp, They asked for what they wanted to ask for, but the county said, okay, we'll consider approving it, but you're only going to be allowed this number of docks.
That's right.
You're not going to litter the coastline with docks because you're getting this PUD. And that's exactly what happened.
Exactly
I don't think that anything about summer camp is bad for the community, it's bad for the environment, it's bad for Franklin County. The simple matter is, we don't have anything on the books. That's why we've been discussing it. So it has nothing to do with lawsuits, has nothing to do with what somebody wants now, has nothing to do with any of that. It's about getting something on the books. So half of the people that spoke today don't even live in unincorporated Franklin County. That's the only thing under our jurisdiction. We don't have any ability to do anything in the city of Appalachia or the city of Carabel. They have their own planning and zoning. They are in control of that. We're not trying to do anything untoward. The state owns 92% or 93% of our property. And the simple fact is, there's still over 1,000 people a day moving to the state of Florida. Folks, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. If we don't get things in place now, like we did about 6 months ago, where this board voted unanimously to retain our height restriction at 47 feet, and it can only be changed by a supermajority vote of this board. We did that, not to try to bring stuff, but to try to protect. So any discussion about a PUD or a PDD is not trying to bring a bunch of stuff here on top of you. We need to have something in place before the ask is ever generated. And it needs to be standard, it needs to be across the board, because the way it was before, this board was taking considerations based on what someone was asking for, instead of having a valid starting point. So all the discussion about coming up with an ordinance on the books is to say this is our starting point. And to clarify further some of the questions we received, and I don't remember all of them, I'm sorry. But again, trying to be transparent. So the reason some of those things were left in this draft is because this board sits as the local planning agency, not our advisory board. So our advisory board doesn't have the opportunity or the ability to change language. This board needs to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we make decisions based on what the residents' input is. So that's why it is what it is. Nobody's trying to push anything over nobody. Nobody's trying to, from this board, even from my standpoint, to say this is the way it's going to be and y'all just got to deal with it. That is not what's going on. And if you're being told that, you're being misinformed, because that's not the actions this board's trying to take. We simply want something on the books so we know what's black and white. So if somebody comes forward and say, this is our deal. We know what you want, but this is what we have. So you're going to start here. So just trying to answer some of the questions we received today. We didn't do it during public comments because that's your time.
Mr. Chairman, I will make a comment. And again, this is a PUD, PDD, PUD. I know that's confusing too for the public, because I was confused. I'm like, why is it, what's different? And I listened online to all of the P&Z workshops that we had. Speaking of PUD, you know, I know a lot of people commented about the bay and the protection and the environmental protection. I don't know if a lot of people in the community are aware, but there is a PUD on Dog Island right now that the Nature Conservancy had to get per the state for tax purposes. So in order for them to control Dog Island and to keep that pristine area, they had to request a PUD from the county. This was way back before any of us were on the board, for tax purposes. So in some instances, PUDs may be necessary to protect our environment, to protect our sea line, to protect our beautiful area. So, and I don't know if a lot of people are aware of that. I wasn't aware of that until Mr. Morone brought it to my attention when I was trying to field some of the questions that I had. So just keep that in mind. And Ms. Brewer, I don't know if she's about there. I was actually on the board when Serenity by the Sea was voted on, I do believe. I think I was like, I was green, very green. But again, at that time, as Chairman said, I didn't know that this 2018 ordinance was even there, okay? This was something that subsequently come up that we happened to come across, or a resident happened to come across. So that's just my thought. So I don't know if anybody wants to elaborate on the Dog Island thing, but but some instances they are necessary
Well,
to protect our
I
environment.
don't know about protecting, but you started looking at it when we started having the discussion. So currently, right now, St. George Island is about 13 PUDs.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Sunset Beach is a PUD, 300 Ocean Mile is a PUD. I mean, there are several PUDs on the island. Have those all been adverse to what we have? Have those all, you know, I understand the apprehension about growth, but folks, we are not big enough to be anybody else's bedroom community. We've got to generate some kind of business. We're not big enough to be Wakulla, to be the bedroom community for Tallahassee. That's not going to work. We're too far away. So, you know, yeah, I'm not saying we're trying to build everything to the skies, but we have to give ourselves the most flexibility we can.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to add too, I did get some emails from individuals, and I don't think they realize they themselves live in PUDs.
No, they don't.
Summer camp, and a lot of people don't realize this, St. James is a PUD where I think it's
a
Arabella.
It was a DRI, actually.
It's a DRI.
Yeah.
Had to be approved by the state.
St. James.
Yes.
Yes,
But-
St. James with DRI.
Kind of the same thing. though.
Yeah, it was another level, but
Essentially,
yeah.
yeah.
It went
But-
through the state, not the
Yes.
county.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Ca-
those
Mr.
are just my
Chairman?
thoughts.
Can I comment on it a little
Yes,
bit? Let me go back to where I come from on it. When I came on board, we had a pretty large scale development that wanted to be on the North Bay Shore Drive over here.
Yep.
By Mr. Ben Watkins. He was wanting to put a golf course over there.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that, Mr. Shearer? And we said no. And I said, you know, I would look at a golf course if it was put in a particular area that was not on that Apalachicola Bay and River. And so years later, come on in here, I think it was, let's see, 2000, 2001, yeah, into 2002 is when we started doing St. James Bay. Back then you had the Department of Community Affairs. I'm just giving it a little history. Back then you had the Department of Community Affairs, and they told you what you could do and what you couldn't do. And I'm a big proponent for, if we sit here as the local government, we're going to be the ones making the decision. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody at the state has all that much common sense. And I'm just saying that. I'm just saying. I'm being realistic. Because, and nobody knows Franklin County like these people, you know. So anyway, we went ahead and did the DRI for St. James Bay. Well, when it came to St. Joe Company, St. Joe had 69,000 acres just in the eastern part of Franklin County. Had been a landowner since the beginning of time, just about it, since the, I'd say the 1940s, 1950s, that I can have recollection about. And as them being large landowners and only paying minimal taxes because of the ag exemption, I felt like St. James owed Franklin County a little something. So by having the ability to negotiate with them, we were able to get a lot of things from St. Joe as we negotiated a good development, and that's how the summer camp came out there. We got Kendrick Park from it. They were able to sell the FERDAP. They owned the land where Kendrick Park was at. It had a 29-foot elevation, and that's why I wanted it. And I think Commissioner Amison could agree that's a good elevation, because I saw what it was doing to D.W. Wilson over here that was in the middle of a pond just about it. And the county was trying to upgrade that, be able to have some kind of a park over here for the folks in Appalachia. And I said, I want to do that. But St. Joe came to the table, and we were able to purchase the land for $57,000 from the Department of Environmental Protection, which is DEP and FERDAP and all them. But that was 90 acres we bought for $57,000. But you see, a PUD is a starting point. But what's better to me is to have the ability to go back and forth. and help the community while you get something out of it. You know what I'm saying? And that's where I'm from, and that's what I rely on, because when summer camp come up there, they could have had all kinds of density. Mr. Paul knows this because they had all that land. And they wanted this much density for this, and this much density for that, and that much density for that. They wanted a big, huge marina. And that was absolutely a no-no to me. I didn't think a marina would be good down there because we've got seagrass beds and everything. But you see, a PUD can help you, a PUD can hurt you. But what's better to me is being able to have that ability to negotiate and sit down and work for a common good for Franklin County. Now, I have to say, and I will reiterate what Chairman Jones said, 92 to 93% of Franklin County is owned by the state of Florida and federal government. That's a good thing. In other words, that's a bad thing. But with that, there is not that many large parcels of land that is left in Franklin County.
No.
You see what I'm saying?
No, there's not.
There's not. And so, like I said, we need to have something, but I don't agree with a lot of this, and it's PDD. I don't agree with that. So anyway, that's just my thoughts. I just wanted to give a little bit of where we come from on this, and why. And in 2000, and that, like I said, that was the early 2000s. Summer camp come right after St. James Bay summer camp come. Not too many, 2004, 2008, up in that area. But since then, we hadn't had any big, large things. So when it came in 2018, that Alan Pierce, then county planner, suggested that we just, don't have a PUD ordinance. We agreed with him. Yeah. And that's the reason why we agreed.
Yeah. Because
we wanted to hold, all the marbles when it comes to that, basically.
Yeah, well, not only that, Commissioner, and I know we have a limited amount of time, but I just want to make sure we have context to it. So when it was repealed, or the ordinance established that repealed the PUD in 2018, that was not done because residents were asking us to do it.
Mm-mm.
That was actually done by the recommendation of Mr. Pierce, based upon the fact we just got through settling a court case with Capital City Bank in Alligator Point, because what we had on the books, they wanted to do exactly what we had in the books, and this board told them no, so they sued them. Because it was exactly what we had on the books. Because what we had on the books was for somebody else's project they asked for. We didn't have a standard ordinance. This is everybody's starting point. We had something on the books that somebody had got approval from before. They asked for the same thing. This commission at that time told them no, so they sued. Thankfully, we won, but that's why it was, Mr. Pierce said, hey, maybe we just need to take this off the books and address PUDs or PDDs as they come to us. Well, that hadn't worked out either. So that's why we're talking about putting something on the books that gives everybody a starting point.
But we just got to get it right.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we schedule a workshop.
All right.
On this. Let's get moving with it.
Yes, sir.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to schedule the workshop by Commissioner Anderson, second by Commissioner Croom. And is that something we're going to talk about today, Attorney Schuler, or what are we going to do?
No, sir. I need to check with Laura, the consultant, to make sure that she's available for the workshop.
Okay.
So if you would not mind authorizing the workshop, and then allow me to work with Laura and communicate to Mr. Marone, and then either we can schedule it or just come back at the next meeting, the first meeting in February, and give the board some dates, and then y'all can decide. I mean, however the board wants to do it.
That'll be fine. Could we do that with the motion we've made, though?
Yes, we had a motion.
Motion and second, yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I know we made a motion, got a second, and we have it on the floor, but I want to also add, can we make sure that there's no confusion in the language? Because I agree with the public, the PDD, PUD thing threw me off too. And I know what they both stand for, but we need to streamline the verbiage that we use and just eliminate the 60-foot altogether, because that's caused confusion too.
Sure.
So I think we need to start fresh with this workshop so it can be productive. and not rehash what,
Yeah, that's
what we
true.
don't have or what we know is not gonna happen. I'm not in favor, obviously not in favor of the 6 foot. I wanna keep the 47. I wanna make sure that we all have the verbiage accurate, so we're starting in a good spot and make it productive workshop and not go backwards.
Yeah, because it says predetermined prior to all this, and I'm saying to myself, don't do that, because talking about the height
yeah.
and all that. I'm saying,
No.
Hey.
All right.
So, I'm sorry, Commissioner Ward, does the board have a preference whether to use the PUD language, or the PDD language? Do y'all
I
have a
personally
preference?
prefer PUD.
Is that something the state's done away with one language? I'm fine with using whichever everybody's comfortable with.
Now,
You know what I mean?
Since we've been talking about PUD for a while,
Yes.
I would
That's gonna limit
think
confusion.
that the PUD language would be the one to stick
Okay.
with, if that's okay with the board. I mean, I'm not aware of there being a state law that says that you have to use the PDD language. I think it was just some verbiage based on, updates and how planners
Okay.
think about these things.
Okay.
Okay.
So with what we've discussed here today and the motion we've made, I just want to make sure before we vote, this draft that we have, we do need to get updated for the board before we have this workshop, so everybody knows what we're talking about. And some of the
Yes,
things that
I
have
will.
been mentioned are in there.
Having this conversation with the board, and
Yes.
as you pointed out, Commissioner Jones, and I'm glad that you did, you pointed out two things that were, I thought, very important here, because there's been so much discussion in the public comment about this potential PUD evaluation ordinance impacting the two cities in Franklin County. And that ordinance, whatever you do or do not pass, it is not going to impact how development does or does not occur in either the two cities.
No.
And then the other thing that you pointed out is that you are the local planning agency.
Yes.
And Ms. Laura did not know that when she was before the Planning and Zoning Commission board, because I think in her experience, as she said, most of the time, the local planning agency is your P&Z planning board, but that's not the case in Franklin County. It's never been the case in Franklin County. This board has always been the LPA, so
Right.
I felt like I knew what your directions were going to be, but nonetheless, I still have to come back to you in this setting and 5 of you as a group to give me instructions, and I feel like I've got that now. So 60 feet will make that official change, and the PUD language will eliminate that PDD language unless you can show me there's a new state law that says it has to be called a PDD, then we'll just use the PUD language that we're more accustomed to referring to locally.
Okay.
But as far as where I think I understand the motion, the second is you're authorizing the workshop, and then I will get information from Ms. Alara, the consultant, about her dates of availability, report that back to you, and then you'll decide
To
when
schedule.
to schedule a workshop.
Sounds good.
Okay. Any other discussion before we vote? All in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Want to have anything else for Attorney Schuler? All right. Mr. Morone, we still have a discussion with Mr. and Mrs. Dingman, correct? CDBG, are they still with us?
No?
We're
Hold
here.
on.
We're here.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
here. Okay.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Dennis.
Thank you. Good morning, Dennis Dingman with Summit Professional Services. Mine will be short.
All right.
I woke up this morning with a fever, so I apologize for not being able to be there. But I'm not asking for a vote, just a consensus from the commission as to whether or not you would like to go after another CDBG program this coming year. We finished the last program, and we're finalizing up some closeout material for this grant. And we spoke to the agency, and they told us that they expect to start a new cycle in the beginning of this summer. We also found out that they didn't have enough applicants during the last cycle, so they're going to add another $7 million of unused allocation to this grant, which will bring the total up to about 32 to 34 million.
Wow.
That would mean an additional 10 communities on average will be added to be funded. So I think it's a good idea if you all do want to go forward with it. The reason I'm not asking for a vote is because at the first public hearing, the commission will make a vote to either apply for a grant or not. But this sense of the commission will give us what we need to just start moving forward with some of the upfront work that needs to go on.
Mr. Chairman, I got a quick question.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Dingman, thanks for being here. I'm sorry you're feeling unwell.
Thank you.
Do you happen to know, I'm glad to hear that they've increased the funding, because that's fantastic. Is there any different rules this year, to your knowledge, legislatively, that's changed?
Not to my knowledge. We haven't seen anything published yet. We don't think so. We've all been waiting for an increase in the amount that goes to communities, but unfortunately we haven't seen that, and I don't think the rule will have enough time to be changed to add additional funds. Right now, the county can receive $700,000 in grant funds, and we don't see that changing unless they do something, you know, that they just don't want to release to us yet. But it will still be $700,000.
The reason I was asking is kind of the SHIP program, they just changed some of their rulings, so I
Yes.
didn't know if it was same for CDBG, but thank you, and I hope you get to feeling better.
Well, thank you. The CDBG, the SHIP program is a state funded program. This is a HUD funded program, the CDBG program.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm good with us going after it. So I just want us to make sure, because we can only have one CDBG project at the time, I want to make sure that we don't have anything else in the works. I don't think we do.
I don't think we
But
do.
Miss Aaron's not currently in the building.
She's listening.
She's our brains.
Yep,
so.
she's listening. Aaron?
Yes, Commissioners, we do not have anything else at this time, which would be running through the CDBG program.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. The only other thing, Mr. Dennison, I'm sorry, I'm trying not to cough, is I would like to have a discussion about what we can do. I know last time we had a couple of residents that either didn't qualify because of $1,000 or something such as that.
Right.
I mean, I don't want us to continue to have a situation where, you know, you have because number one, I don't want residents to lie about their status. Nobody should ever want that. But at the same time, I mean, you know, it's kind of rough when you say you made $1,000 too much in a year to actually get help.
Right.
You know, so,
Unfortunately, that is cast in concrete, and I believe either one of the commissioners or the council's attorney called the agency, and they confirmed that no, the limits are the limits. They're set by HUD, and all of this gets audited. And unfortunately, it's disheartening for sure. But unfortunately, if it's found out by the agency during an audit that homes are going to people that don't qualify, then the county is responsible for paying back that money.
yeah.
So it's our job to keep the county in compliance so that that doesn't happen. I know who you're talking about, and it is disheartening, but unfortunately, those are the rules set by HUD.
Well, I'm not trying for us to be uncompliant or definitely painting outside the lines. What I'm trying to say is, so what I remember from last time first, and it's nothing to do with you, Mr. Dingman, or your wife, but it was because of the state. We started that CDBG project and it drug out for 2.5 years. That's number one. We want to make sure we get handled within a year time frame. The other thing, and I know that was a state, that was not y'all. The other thing is though, from talking to you guys last time, all of us talking to y'all, it seemed like we were trying to fit all the criteria money-wise first, and then on the back end, it's whether the resident needed help or not. That's the only thing I think is kind of lacking in the whole process.
The criteria that HUD sets down is, number one, income qualified based on the HUD income limits that they set every year. And then secondly, extra points for applicants if they're over 62 and if they have a handicap. So there are extra points available to those folks that will rank them higher
Right.
if they have those, meet those other two qualifications. Now, I understand exactly what you're saying. Let us talk to Aaron before the next meeting. The next meeting would be a first public hearing.
Yes.
And let us talk to Aaron and see what we can do around that. If there's any leeway in that, I just don't want to commit at this point.
Oh, that's fine. And no, you're more than gracious. That's all I was asking. Is there some kind of conversation we can have? Because I would perceive it's better to have the conversation on the front end than it is after
Sure.
we're already in the middle of the program. That's all I was
Absolutely.
trying to get, Mr. Dennis.
Absolutely. So I guess my question is it the consensus of the commission that the county does want to move forward?
I'm good with it. I think, they're all nodding their head, yes, sir. We'll say that's affirmative.
Okay, very good. We'll start beginning the process with Aaron and Michael.
Yeah. Thank you so much, and thank you for taking the extra time, because I know we've drawn out a little bit longer than we planned to today.
Yeah. Well, I understand you're all going home at noon or something?
Oh, yeah, I know. Sir, last week I actually went and got checked to make sure I didn't have pneumonia. That's how bad it's been, so. I'm doing good to be here today. But God is good. And I hope you get to feeling better, Mr. Dennis.
Well, thank you very much. I have to tell you, it is a pleasure working with Franklin County.
Well, thank you.
The residents are just great.
Thank you so
I
much.
hope that you all have received some thank yous.
We have. I have.
Good.
Of course, I'm a captive audience at the auto parts, so, they can kind of find me. Thank you, sir.
I understand. Thank you.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
All right. Any commissioner comments today?
Just, Mr. Chairman, stay warm, stay indoors, stay off the roads. I unfortunately have to go to work tomorrow because my business is not closed. But please sign up for the emergency alerts with Alert Franklin. Please sign up for, I know a lot of people don't do Facebook, but at least do the Alert Franklin, because that's the most up-to-date information that people can have. And just be safe.
I have something.
All right.
I was asked about this. And Michael, you probably have to research this.
Okay.
So, when you walk in the courthouse, we used to have a lot of veterans there. Do you know what happened to all those pictures and why they took them down?
No.
Maybe because of water, the rain
maybe
damage?
because-
Rain?
Is that because they moved them to the supervisor's office?
No, they're not there anymore.
Oh, they're not?
Nowhere, I don't know where
That
they
was on the wall.
Really?
Okay.
So they want a wall downstairs?
Yeah.
They were there.
I didn't even know.
I'll find out.
You know what I noticed that the other day when I was over there, they weren't there. Somebody took
You
them
didn't
down.
notice what you noticed, did you?
I didn't even know.
Unless,
I was looking for artists and didn't see them.
I was so happy to see them gone.
I'm teasing.
I was asked about them. I noticed it too. And I was like,
I never
a
knew.
lot of
It's a
people-
wall of honor, is
Yes, it
what
is.
I thought it was.
Yeah. I didn't know if we plan to put them in a different location or we just.
I'll find out, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, he'll find.
And the last thing I had was, if you would, I know our baseball season's coming up.
Mhm.
Can you just have a conversation with the sheriff office about, see if we can have extra law enforcement or a law enforcement officer to routinely show their presence?
At the games?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, I'll get Fonda to call the sheriff. and they
Yeah,
can
even
set
if
up
they
a schedule.
can't commit to having somebody there the whole time, but
Right,
at least
just-
during their
yeah,
patrol, during that
presence,
time, like be seen every once in a while, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That might
I
be
know,
a good
because,
thing.
when Commissioner Amison is a coach, he just acts
That's-
wild.
You gotta keep it all straight.
Yeah, it's the baseball mamas. We got to have somebody back there to settle them down.
Nice knowing you, Otis.
Hey, I deal with them for about 3 months.
Any other commissioner comments?
I just got one. I'm just so happy to be here today, and we have so many blessings that we can thank our Lord and Savior for.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, it's just a different day in this country now.
Yes.
So I'm just so happy and everything, and I think things are going to be better for our people. I just have to say, I'm going to just say it, I'm very, very concerned over the oyster situation.
Yeah.
I'm very, very concerned when nobody can get repaid for damages on their boats. It just upsets me. And, when I was off on my retirement break with my husband back then, but when I heard it happen, I called. And I called John Kramer's the former person that was in John Kramer's position, which I'd known for 30-something years. And the first question I asked him, I said, I hear you're getting $17 million. That's before the governor appropriated the 10. And I said, you know, my question is, what about, did y'all do an economic impact study on how this was going to impact the county? No, ma'am. Well, do y'all intend to help the citizens? No, ma'am. But that's what we keep on hearing. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Or no, sir. No, sir. We need to get a handle on it and let's see what's happening. So I can tell you, I'm concerned, very concerned.
Mr. Chairman, I believe we're gonna have a pretty interesting partnership meeting Wednesday.
Sounds like it.
And I will be reporting back to y'all at that first meeting in February about what's discussed, because we'll have a lot more one-on-one and in-depth stuff with the FWC and the powers that be. So I'll give y'all a good update.
Yeah, that would be good.
Thank you.
I would like to take this opportunity to publicly thank Ms. Lynn Martina for her time that she volunteered on the hospital board. She did email me the other day, and for personal reasons, she's stepping down. But I do thank her for the opportunity, the time, and everything she did to put into it. It's a good thing, and I just wanted to make sure I express that today.
She's a good person.
She is. Any other commissioner comments? All right, meeting adjourned.